All right, we're live.
Awesome.
What's up, guys? Welcome, everyone. Matthew, Eric, Grant, first people trailing in. So tonight we have another awesome guest, Scott Hodges. Does amazing work. Very excited to chat with you tonight, Scott. Welcome. Yeah. So I know, we've had some conversations privately, but we'll kind of talk tonight, assuming that everyone else knows nothing.
Okay.
So I'd love to, and there's no rules. We can go as long or as short as we want.
Okay.
Talk about anything we want. It doesn't have to be art. We can go off on tangents. It doesn't matter. And that's pretty much it. Let me tweet really quick a link. And while I'm doing that, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about, your history and, in art and in life and whatever else you want. I'm going to promote it on Twitter real quick.
Okay. My name is Scott Hodges. I like to do pop art based stuff is what I like a lot. I can do other art, but I really tend to go towards the pop art. My older brother was a really classically trained art. He was like an art professor, and he had art display at the Cochrane Museum and stuff like that. He was a very traditional type artist. And when I was younger, I just kind of almost, I guess, because it was almost he was a little bit older than I was, and it was almost so intimidating being around somebody that talented. You kind of almost shied away from it. So for the longest time, I was like a closet art guy and didn't do a lot of it, then went really into computers, and I started designing apps and doing all that kind of stuff, and then graduated to where I am now, where I just back to doing artwork. I like it the most.
Nice. And so you said pop art. So most of the stuff that I've seen of yours is athletes. Do you do some stuff that's not athletes?
Lots of stuff that's like rock stars, music, movies, all that. Almost like we were just, you and I just a minute ago, we're talking to a guy on Twitter that was saying that all the top 2020 artists were terrible and stuff. And I almost wish there was almost like a public service announcement where people understood what pop art is, that pop art is not a portrait. It's not what you're trying to do. Your pop art, the movement originally came from like Andy Warhol, that's my favorite, and Roy Lichtenstein, all those people, and they were in advertising, and they moved from advertising to art. And for them, art was the colors, and then they used the images from what they see or what they do in their art. So for them, a picture of Mark McGuire, like I showed that I did earlier, they can draw Mark McGuire. I can draw Mark McGuire. I can paint Mark McGuire, but the image is the paint. Like that's what sometimes people don't understand with some of this stuff. It's on purpose. That's why it's like that. And what the Pops 2020, what's really neat about them is that if you took the time to learn about pop art and you go back and you say, well, what this is, instead of using advertising and celebrities as the medium, it's using classic baseball cards, which is really advertising, So it's a really cool concept if you just take a deep breath and realize that not everything's going to look like a classic portrait somebody does, because that's not the object. And it's not that the guys aren't capable of doing it. It's what they're trying to do. It's that they're actually very talented to do what they're doing to make it look like on purpose.
Right. Absolutely.
Anyway,
that's I think that Topps did such an amazing job curating 20 artists that are all so different from each other. And it's really cool seeing as the project moves through, even though we're all doing different things, I think that the artists are kind of getting inspired or getting, want to up their game, right? Because they see what the other artists are doing. And I look at it like I'm competing against my last card every time. I want to make it cooler and cooler if I can. And I think that a lot of artists are doing that. And then also seeing outside of Project 2020, all of the I think it's helped bring a lot of attention to other sports artists. And I've seen a lot of different artists kind of coming in with their own kind of version of Project 2020, like Gypsy Oak, for example. He did his kitchen table project where he had all the Project 2020 cards in his style. You had that Big Mac kind of inspired by the Mark McGuire stuff, which is awesome. I know we shared that. Got the
I'm an Orioles fan, but I grew up in the 80s days where I love those guys. That's why the guy talking about steroids and all that stupid stuff. I just want to say, did you like watching it when it happened? If you watch that, it was the most amazing thing, And then sometimes people get so hung up on the steroids and stuff like that, and I can understand. I'm not disrespecting them, but then I want to ask them, well, what's your favorite musical artist? What movies do you like? What do you think those people are? Do you think that they're just drinking diet soda and going home every night? I mean, like you like Led Zeppelin or any class? I like a lot of like. I mean, read some stories about what those guys were doing.
Yeah. They're taking
McGuire looked pretty tame,
performance-enhancing drugs of different kinds. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like look at Jimi Hendrix album covers and stuff. Do you think that they were just doing that from normal mind? I mean, there's a whole art movement that came from performance-enhancing things.
Totally. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So in terms of your art, are you doing, and I know we talked about this, like I said, a little offline, but just for the other people, painting analog with paint, digital, combination of both. What do you prefer? How are you creating it? Because I see some of your stuff that I can't, honestly, there's some things that I can't tell. I'm like, this could be digital. This could be made with paint.
Both. A lot of times the stuff that looks like it was made with paint, a lot of times I'll use an iPad Pro and Apple Pencil, and I actually would draw it digitally like that. When you were asking like what inspired me, I really was into designing computer. Steve Jobs was my hero, designing and doing stuff. Nice. And my older brother passed away, and when he passed away, one of the last things he told me was, don't be some guy that just makes like an app that makes dogs bark or something like that. He said that use the art it could be much more lasting than doing something like that. So I thought of that, and then I remembered the story about when Andy Warhol first saw the first Macintosh computer, and he thought it was just amazed by it, he couldn't step away from it. And so he thought that if you were to able to just make yourself use just that to create art, then you could do some really cool things. So that's kind of like, I'm not saying I'm him or anything, but I'm just saying that's like my inspiration. I'm trying to almost block myself from doing anything just normal, like painting, normal drawing. I try to do it all digitally and make myself create it from scratch like that. Like I would call it cheating. I don't cheat. I try not to, Sure. Sometimes it's hard not to just, I think what I'm going to do now, even though going against what I just said, is I'm going to print on canvas and do some stuff like that, but it'll be both. It'll be digital and that together. So do like a digital print on canvas and then do painting on top of it? Sure. Or do like how you do where you cut the mats or the stencils, and then you'll paint a basis, and then you'll do that. I'll kind of do step one, the stencil digitally, and then I'll do the painting, and then I'll print it on canvas, and then do that last step by hand. It'll kind of make each thing unique. Then it'd be more of a unique thing for each one I do like that. Totally. I love it, man. And so when you do the work, we'll just talk about the digital stuff for now. Yeah. Then you're selling prints of those, right? And is it just like print on demand, or do you do a run of like 100 prints of a particular thing? When it's gone, it's gone. What's like the printmaking process like? Right now, it's just print on demand because I have all the stuff to do my own prints. And oh, cool! You make them at yourself at your house? Yeah, I can. Yeah, I have like I was telling you about. I said like assume that people don't. Yeah, I have a printer that I have like the professional printer that you use to make like G-clay prints and stuff. So I can make them if somebody wants something. I can do it that way, and that's really cool for a smaller person because you don't have to buy 100 G-clay prints of the Mark McGuire that it might take 6 months to sell all of. So right. And those, and if I remember, you said it was an Epson SureColor? Yes. Wide format. The wide format, though, whatever, 90. Like, I forget what the width you said was. Like I could go huge if I wanted to. Really? Yeah. Awesome. I like to go 17 by, what was I doing? The 14 by 17. Because I really like the way that looks because it's like you hold it in your hand. Mm-hmm. And that reminds me of like if you were to go buy art somewhere and not the original art, but like if you were to hold it in your hand, the 14 by 17, I'm a giant guy. I'm 6'7", 360-pound guy. So when I hold it, it's still big. I know for a regular person, it would be a normal cool size. I like that a lot, but I could go huge. Yeah. I did. Somebody wanted a print of the, I do paintings of stadiums too, digital paintings of that. And somebody wanted the Red River Shootout and they wanted it bigger. So I went real big on that one for them, but it looks neat when it's big too. It's impressive. Yeah. It's kind of hard to believe that you did something like that sometimes when you look at it. Totally. That's the coolest thing about going from digital to printing something is that I get used to seeing it on like a whatever it is, a 32-inch screen or on my MacBook or whatever. But then when I see it blown up huge, that's a cool feeling. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Is the ink on that printer expensive? Yeah. Really expensive, yeah. Yeah, I bet. But that's what I'm trying to figure out now is how much I'm going to have to charge for prints. I think the art part, I keep getting better and better and better at, because I think that's kind of inside you, where it's not the business part I need to work more at, because I tend to like give a lot of stuff away. And to me, it's almost about like sharing what's in my head with people. I'm still at that stage, I guess, and like I need to work more on the money part of it, like making more money. And I've had multiple different people approach me about wanting to be like the finance people behind it and do that. I'm just kind of, but I need to be more serious.
I think that sometimes that can make sense, but not because of like how much money they bring to the table, but more like what other things they bring to the table.
Yeah.
Is I think that like for like cash flow purposes, I'm very fortunate right now where like within the Tops project, the cash flow is fine, but like I would consider taking investor money, not because of the money, but because of who was investing.
Yeah.
And so if it was somebody that I was really like, because when somebody's invested financially, then they're going to be invested like emotionally, and they're going to really put a lot of time into making sure, because they want to see their money back, right? Or make money. So I think like, go ahead. Sorry.
You go ahead. But are they also going to want to try to influence? That's the thing. There's been actually 3 real serious groups of people I've talked to. And one of them, before we even got to point B of the conversation, they already kind of like talking about what we would do. And I'm like, what, are you coming over or something? I mean, interrupt you, but go ahead. No.
Yeah. I just think that, if you're in a position where you're like, okay, well, the art gets better and better, and you acknowledge that the business side could be improved, there's 2 ways to do it. You could do it yourself. And that could be a lot of trial and error. It could be taking like, night school online, there's tons of different ways, you can do it. Or you can bring on someone to handle the business side of things, that might be attached to something like an investment.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of depends on, your personality type and what you're looking for, and the other person's skill set and what they bring to the table, and whether or not it makes sense. And I'm not saying it does or it doesn't. I'm just saying, because I actually have taken investor money in the past before. It's fortunate because I set it up so that there were a few different ways that people could be paid back. So like they could be paid back just almost, it's like a loan, just straight interest, a small interest percentage over the course of 2 years. Or they could have an art credit where they can take their investment, and they basically, I gave them like 3 times the investment to be spent on art over the next 3 years or over the next 2 years. Or they could have a very, very small percentage of rev share, or like really gross rev share. And I had some investors, and it was a mix, and I kind of designed it to be geared towards my collectors, because I was just in a position where cash flow was tight, and the studio is not cheap, and moving to New York was not cheap, and so I just felt like it was an opportunity for me to get a little bit of money up front, and I was really hoping that people would go for like prepaying for art, because then it's I mean, art still costs money and time to make, but then I wouldn't be like on the hook for more money. And honestly, like for the investors I got, it was a mix. Some people did. Actually, there was only 2 things. Nobody picked the simple interest, because they could just go to a bank if they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But some people picked the art credit, and actually one guy picked the small percentage. And so it's great with Tops now that things are taking off, that like, every quarter I give him a report of how he did, and I sent him a check for his percentage. And it actually felt really good to write him a check for 1 quarter that paid off his entire, that's like, he's now profitable. But he's also been doing this for like, I think we're in quarter 6. So he's only got a couple more quarters. This was over a year ago that this happened. And so, it's it was fine. Like I was going along, like, but I was sending him small checks, and like he was getting, he's getting a little, and he's encouraging me. But now that I like gave him a big check that covered everything that he paid, he's like, wow, like this is amazing. You're blowing up. Like, I mean, he believed in me. That's why he did it. But he's like, I'm so happy for your success. Like, this is awesome. So we actually set up a phone call. I guess that was just yesterday, and talked for like an hour. And he does a lot of different investing, hadn't done too much in the art space, is more in like e-commerce side of things. But like we had a great hour-long conversation about ways that he thinks that I agree could help continue to grow my business. specifically focused on like the e-commerce side of things, because that's where my customers buy my paintings. And so like I got to see firsthand, because like he saw success, and it wasn't just that. It also is like, I didn't want to go and ask him for like an hour of his time when I was sending him these small checks. But once I gave him a big check, I have no fear of like, he's in the black. So like, I'm like, hey, let's talk. So we made that happen. And like, he had some really good ideas. And so it can be helpful to have somebody on the business side that can be a sounding board. But you also can find that just in other people, you know, or other like friends. Like, for example, like you call me up anytime and you have a business question on like pricing. I've done a lot of trial and error. And that's most of how I learned, like, you know, my side of the art business, and I'm always happy to help. So yeah, it's interesting, man.
Do you ever feel like when people give you money, do you feel pressure does it change what you create? You know, like, because if somebody doesn't make stuff, they don't understand for like the one, like the Mark McGuire you had on the cover of Beckett, like everybody in the world sees that, they go, man, that's awesome. People that don't make things don't understand that you made 20 things that were absolute crap that nobody ever saw to get to that, because you learned something from each little step of that. And I wonder sometimes when people invest, do they understand there's going to be times where you make 20 million things, and then, you know, it's almost like music. You just keep throwing stuff at the wall and you learn, and bang, now you've got the hook, now you've got the drop, you make the song, you know, and that's kind of how art is, you know. I wonder sometimes that if somebody's looking over my shoulder, or if I felt that, would it make me change what I'm doing, you know? So I was asking about that the other day, where if do you need one specific style all the time? Because that would drive me insane if I had to do that all the time, you know? I mean, I like to do, like, sometimes it's just totally different things every time, you know? So So I mean, I guess I'm maybe flowing through my head thinking, do I owe these people? Do I need to be like regimented? This is going to sell, make 17 Michael Jordan cards, or stuff that I know would sell or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So a couple things. I mean, I try not to let the money side affect it. And it's an interesting position because, you know, I'm part of Project 2020, and we're very lucky that Topps pays us a royalty. So the more cards sell, the more money I make. Like, it's very cut and dry. And so, like, in that sense, like, I want to make something that is going to sell well.
Sure.
And I want to like hype it up and promote it like crazy and get it to sell. But I also want to do something that I feel really good about and like feel comfortable with. And honestly, it hasn't been that challenging. I think the other thing that I kind of stopped doing that I did at the beginning of the project is I was like obsessed with every part of the process in the beginning in terms of the sales of the cards. So I wanted to know like the print run, and then immediately like on eBay, I was like looking at prices every day of like, what are these going for now? How about now? How about now? And like, and obviously the project like had like a crazy hockey stick, and then we've kind of normalized our back to like real world. But like, I kind of, I felt like I was spending too much time like monitoring those secondary market prices for my existing art. And then I realized, I'm like, well, if the price goes up super high and it's like 10 times what it costs, you know, a day ago, or if it tanks and is like zero, basically, like, I don't want that to affect whatever I create next. So like, I kind of just stopped paying attention to the whole secondary market. I know it exists. I think it's really cool that exists, but I try to like have the blinders on for the next card. In terms of like someone looking over your shoulder and like telling you what to do, I think that like part of that would be finding, again, not necessarily investing for the money or getting an investor for the money, but getting it for the personality type and the skill set that they bring to the table. And so I think like you just have to be crystal clear of like, this is a process. And for me to make one good thing, I have to make 10 bad things first.
Yeah.
And literally be like, you can't look over my shoulder and judge all the bad things that I do, because that's my process to get to the one good thing that we're going to do. Also, I think that, and I told you this in the private message yesterday, that I do think the specializing is helpful for the business side of things, just in terms of building your name and building your brand. You know, I'm known currently for painting athletes, but I paint all kinds of other stuff, and I love to paint other stuff. So like, I mean, you can see behind me, well, the cupboards were all painted by other artists that I've worked with. this piece was like a Picasso inspired piece that like I love Picasso, and I just one night I'm like, screw it, I just want to paint something fun just for me. And I have a lot of stuff like that all throughout my studio, and like I love working abstract and just doing like huge, 8 feet by 6 feet pieces, putting it out on the floor and just, blasting music or an audiobook. And so I think that I don't think you should stop, especially if you say, oh, if I do one thing, it'll drive me crazy. Definitely don't stop doing all the things that you love to do. I think if you think about like from the brand positioning, might be smart to like have a focus. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, like I'm trial and error. I didn't go to art school. I didn't go to business school. I've gotten a good mix of experience, I guess, with some marketing stuff and now a lot of art stuff. But yeah.
What are you going to do about selling? Another question? Most of this probably doesn't mean anything to some people, but I'm just asking you.
Don't worry about it. They're not even here.
Okay.
You and me, buddy.
What about selling? What about getting stuff printed in mass? Like, say I wanted to print something I did, like a card. What keeps somebody from keeping 100 of the card they print? I mean, what's the process? How do you like? Is there like a place where artists say, "Hey, these are the 12 printers you can trust to have cards printed," or is there some place that there's like almost like a I don't know. I don't know what the right word would be, but the place, like say I could say, hey, Blake, is this dude for real, or is this some guy that 20 minutes later I'm going to see 80 things on?
Yeah, like a Angie's List for art vendors. That would be a good thing to have. Got to be honest, man, I've never really thought about that. Like I've worked with a handful of different printers, and I mean, obviously, like working with someone trustworthy and, is going to do what they say is super important. I've kind of, gone by like Yelp reviews or whatever, and then like literally go there and like see the quality of whatever thing they're making. So I have never really thought of like, if someone is my printer and then they print like an extra 10 for themselves. I also don't really care. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe someday I will. I think that like stuff like that, I look at as like a compliment. So, for example, I had a piece of art, a really nice piece of art that I really liked. Same size as this Picasso style one. It was a portrait of Nipsey Hussle. I had done a few after he passed. I did a few different pieces of him in different colorways. And I had one of them, and it was in a group show in Brooklyn. And it was by, it was this little kind of upstart gallery that I didn't know too much about. But my friend was doing the show, and she was really excited about it. And I was excited to be in a show with her and some of her friends. And so during the show, my piece and one other piece, actually one of hers, she had like 5 pieces in the show because she kind of organized it. One of her pieces and that one piece of mine were stolen off the wall. And someone walked out with them. And then it turned out that like the security cameras didn't work, and the insurance that they had wasn't sufficient. And they told me that they were going to pay me back, but literally it was last October. So it's been almost a year, never gotten a dime for that painting. It's gone. Took me a long time to make. It was on the wall. I think I had it priced at the time for like $3,000. I'm never going to see that money. I could be really bitter. I could be bitter about it, but I look at it, I'm like, damn, out of this giant group show,
that's the one
someone wanted to steal my work. Like, cool. Obviously that's not sustainable, but it's still like, that's kind of my mentality about it. And so like, and the same thing goes for like a printer. Like if I took my work to a printer and then they printed a bunch of things and had some extras that they were trying to like hustle on the side or like keep for themselves, like whatever, man. It's like, as long as like I give them they give me the amount of prints that they promise me, and I trade them the amount of money I promised them, that's a cool exchange. And I'm going to take that into the free market and make my, my cut. But I think that's a great question. And like I said, like, I don't know, I hadn't really thought about it.
Cause I have like, where I really focus on a lot of it. I do a lot of like, sometimes I'll do custom cards and some, just like a regular popper. Like that's what I was trying to explain, but I'll do like custom cards of like the 33 galleys of like the Negro Leagues players and stuff, And I would want to get a bunch of those printed not for money wise, but to give to, I love to give stuff to kids in schools and stuff. Like
Absolutely.
my favorite thing I've ever done was when my little girl's 8, I went to her school and they were for Black History Month. Their teacher, I guess, liked sports. She started talking about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
My little girl said, "Well, my daddy does a lot of baseball artwork." And so her teacher said something to me, and I made a bunch of, I blew all the 33 guided cards of all the ones that people someday might not have heard of, like Buck Leonard, so not necessarily all Jackie Robinson and all that. So I made all these things for them and brought them in, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought that they're not going to really care about stuff from the 30s and all that. Well, that next day, Beckett came home from, my little girl's name's Beckett. She's named after the Beckett man.
Awesome.
How big of a nerd I am.
That's a great name too.
Yeah. She came home with this big package, and inside of it, all those kids had then drawn baseball cards of the people that inspired them from that, And for me, there's no amount of money. That's my favorite thing I've ever done. That any attention that's my favorite, was because two things: that those little kids all learned something, and then also my little girl felt really proud, and that's like the most important thing in the world to me. That's for me. The end is not. I'm not monetarily motivated. But I'm motivated just for my little girl, So I want to make money, but it's just for my little girl, That's all I really. It's not because I want anything in the world. It's just I want her life to be the best thing possible, and for her to be proud of her dad. So when I make artwork or do whatever, I'm curious about the marketing and all that. Not because I want people to go, "Oh man, Scott's great." I want Beckett to think that Scott's great, and I want her to be able to live off of that. I don't really care about. I'm not. If it were up to me, I could live in like a little small place and just make artwork all day long. If you didn't need money, if you could trade artwork for food, I would, and pay your bills with it, I would be cool with that. I'm not really like that, but I do recognize, and like I was telling you, those guys I was talking to, they're telling me that attitude's great, but you don't realize what you're leaving on the table, and you're not just leaving it on the table in the ether. I mean, this is something your daughter could live off forever. You have the potential to really make a lot of money, and you need to think about your daughter. Even if you don't care about it, think about your daughter. And so that's really been on my mind a lot, thinking about, that whatever's in my head and whatever, I would like it to benefit her, so.
Yeah.
So that's definitely my motivation. It's definitely not, it's awesome when people compliment me, or it's awesome when people say they like something or something like that, but it's not like for my internal value. It's that it made them feel cool, that you looked at a Bo Jackson card and you thought, man, I remember when I was like, I put a Bo Jackson thing on Twitter, and the guy, I got so many. He's so cool. I think everything I put on there, he's like, and I think he's watched what I'm doing, but
that's great.
That's really cool. But this guy messaged me, and he said it reminded him when he was with his little brother playing Tecmo Bowl and playing with Bo Jackson. And to me, that's what art is. It's that making somebody feel something or think something or like that. That's what the real power of this stuff is. I mean, I understand there's a monetary value and there's a market and all that, but the ability for you or for any artist to be able to make something that makes people, that like triggers something, like I use that Mark McGuire you made as an example. I remember being a little kid and loving Mark McGuire, and then the 85 card being his rookie and the 87 not. And when you have the flag, all the stuff with it. And that's what art can do. It can make you, all of a sudden you're lost in this world of when you were a little kid by a picture that somebody made. And that's an amazing ability to be able to have and to share with people. I guess I'm trying to figure out the best way to share that so that it benefits everybody else and my little girl. That's kind of where, and it's hard. I could just sit here and make pictures all day, but all the other stuff that goes with it's pretty hard.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that, like, I'm with you, man. I'm not financially motivated. I have a tattoo on my wrist. Love of
I love that tattoo.
I really like that tattoo. So I'm with you there. I think that art is not about the money. It's about the stories that go along with it. Whether it's my stories that I felt like, or making the art, brought up for me, or the stories that other people pull from it. Could be a childhood memory, could be, anything that you talked about. And I think that making as much money as you possibly can through your art will do two things. It will accomplish your goal of setting up Beckett, right, for the brightest possible future. And not that money makes a bright future, but it can help, in terms of security there. And then also, it'll simply like allow you to reach more people. Especially if you just like if you're reinvesting, you know, if you make a bunch of money and you reinvest it back into your business, whether it's into, you know, a printer that prints faster and you can get more art out there, or like marketing to like get your art in front of more people, or like a publicist and you start getting press, or like anything like that. So in that sense, like, I do think that like maximizing the amount of income that you can get from your art will help you achieve the other goals that have nothing to do with money. And they're not like, it's not mandatory, but that's at least the mindset that I have is, you know, I don't care that much about money. I have everything that I could possibly want. And I have my health and an amazing family and friends and everything. Money's not going to change any of that one way or the other. So I want money so that I can get my art into more homes and like keep living my own dream and doing what I love to do.
That's awesome. And that's it. I mean, that's perfectly summed it up. Like my ex-wife, Beckett's mom, she's a teacher in downtown Atlanta. And she was telling me that the school didn't have the money to paint. They changed all the schools around and stuff. And in the inner city, a lot of times, you know, that's just where those kids get screwed. You know, they just, at every level, they get screwed. You know, and I was asking her about that. And I thought, you know, could you imagine like what I was talking about with the Negro League cards for my daughter's class? I think what I would like to do is be able to paint the whole inside of the school like that, you know, and that would go back to doing the physical stuff that I didn't trying to avoid, but I guess I could figure out a way to do both together. But that would be making money to be able to buy the paint and the supplies and the stencils and all the stuff you would need to do that. And so that's where, like, just like what you said, the ability, that's what I recognize I need to go to that next level, because if I make a bunch of money, it's not necessarily that I'm going to go buy like a diamond Rolex with it or something. I want to be able to buy, or buy more stuff to make more stuff to give to more people. It's almost like a backwards, what do they call those things? The pyramids, like a backwards. I'm making, instead of a pyramid, I'm making a funnel. I just want more to give more people more stuff, you know? And that's it. What made you like the Picasso?
Man, I love Picasso. I think that, I don't know. I mean, I'm inspired by a lot of different artists, and I go through phases. I mean, I love Warhol. I love Basquiat. I love Picasso. I love Keith Haring. Those guys are just legends in my book. And I don't remember. So there's actually a show, and it's funny because right now I'm rewatching it on Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime Video. It's a series called Genius, and the second season is about Picasso, and it's like a dramatized documentary. Like, it's like a docu-ish show, you know. It kind of follows his life, and it kind of goes back and forth between a young Picasso and then an old Picasso. Old Picasso is played by Antonio Banderas, and he just kills it. And I think it was when I was watching that show for the first time, which is probably about a year ago when it came out. I just love his work, and you know, I think that I love trying to imitate the people that I admire most, just to like see what that's like. Not in a sense of like, you know, I'm not going to go and paint a ton of things like this and start to be like, this is my style now, because it's not my style. Just like if you look over here, let's see, there's a Basquiat, one more. There we go.
Yep.
So there's the Basquiat Untitled Skull. Yep. And so that was after I went to this amazing Basquiat exhibition at the Brandt Foundation in Lower Manhattan. And it was like, I don't know what it was, 5 floors, and the floors, they were like 20 feet tall ceilings. And like, they had like in some rooms, they had like 6 paintings high stacked. They just had like, I mean, there were hundreds of paintings, tons that I'd never seen before. And I just like had so much fun in there looking at all the work and seeing it in person, because a lot of Basquiat's work I just get to see in books or online. So after seeing it, I just picked out that skull, which was there as one of my favorites, and I took a photo of it, and I just basically came straight to the studio and was just seeing if I could do it, which is a lot of fun. And then those just end up typically being like in my own personal collection and just, you know, being fun things.
If you did that with Picasso, you'd be able to pretty much cover every part of art, because when he was young and he was first classically trained, he had one way, and then he just kept evolving the different styles. Then you said like old Picasso. The old Picasso is the best, because at that point he just said screw it, and he was just almost just making lines. I mean, it's it's so wild to think somebody could be so talented and so gifted that they just get bored with being good, you know. And so that's almost what he was like at the end of his life, and that's amazing with him. He's just the whole arc of everything, you know.
Yeah, it's great. Have you seen the show that I'm talking about?
No, I'm gonna watch it now.
You got to check it out because it starts there. He was an amazing. He was working with charcoal and pencil and like oil painting, just very classically trained, like spot on, draw what you see. I don't know exactly how true the show is versus real life, but in the show, it wasn't necessarily like that he got bored. It was that he's like, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. I want to do something completely new. And also at the time, he kind of had this like rivalry with Matisse because Matisse was pushing boundaries and drawing things with crazy perspective and really unnatural colors and stuff. And it seems like in the show that like that was a really big influence on him of like trying to push outside the box and he was like trying to paint something that no one has ever painted before rather than trying to paint like something exactly how it looks, which is what a bunch of people are trying to do. So it's fascinating.
The piece is amazing is that like earlier, you and I, when we were on Twitter, the guy was getting upset about the 20. Can you imagine if you're arguing with somebody or you're talking to somebody on Twitter about a baseball card not looking the right way in a world today where every boundary is being pushed? Can you imagine when Matisse was painting that stuff, when everything was just cut and dried, it has to look and be so when they said those guys were pushing boundaries, they literally were. I mean, like they weren't going to eat because people were like, this is trash. I don't want this. You know what I mean? And so that's a pretty brave thing to do if that's your life and you're doing something that everybody's going to say is total garbage and you need that to eat, you know what I mean? Or you need that to live, you know? So that's a pretty brave thing to try to educate people while you create, you know? And that's why a lot of those masters are amazing is that not only were they creating, they were educating while they were creating. They're showing people, this is why I'm doing this. Let me show you why this face doesn't look like a portrait. I'm trying to show you the eyes because that's what this person was or whatever from somebody, you know, that the eyes are huge because when you look at this woman, the first thing you thought was her eyes. So when I made this image, it was her eyes, you know? And so that's what was then for just using Picasso and stuff. But that's, it's, I almost wish people would take the 5 minutes to learn some of that kind of stuff because it's really neat. It's not boring. You know, if you take the time to learn it, most people are like, oh, man, I don't care about that. I just want to see the picture of Bo Jackson, you know, but there's a whole evolution of things that have happened in art to get to where you can make the Bo Jackson, you know? Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know. I like that everyone's got different perspectives. Yeah. And I like I also think it's important both as an artist and like I mean even like within Topps 2020 there's, you know, some people that don't like the project or don't like certain artists or don't like Topps or whatever it is, but those people complaining about it are adding to the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like it continues the dialogue. And like an argument typically makes for a lot more, if we're looking at like Twitter, an argument makes for a lot more Twitter mentions. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, reason. That's like a whole conversation. If I say something and you're like, agreed, the conversation ends and then the mentions end. And so like, it's kind of like the any press is good press type of mentality. But I look at like anybody that's talking about Project 2020, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm a fan. I'm like, cool. Great. And like usually, you know, like, I mean, like with that dude, he's like, oh, I can make any art, you know, I can make art like better than half the artists. And I was like, okay, great. Do it.
Yeah, maybe you can. That's great. But.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I hope he does. He's like, okay, I'm going to tag you and it's going to be better because of XYZ. I'm like, okay, great. Let's see it. But yeah, it's funny. It's fun.
I guess for me, the thing is I love people having different perspectives because that's important. Right. I just think sometimes the way people blanket crap on stuff is seems to me that is really prevalent in not so much in art. If you were to go and there was a art 2020 thing, I don't think you would see as much of that as there's this really quick to bash kind of thing sometimes with sports cards. And I love sports. I'm a huge sports fan, but sometimes I wish that people would just take a breath sometimes and just kind of soak it all in first and not everything you don't like. If you don't like it, doesn't mean it sucks. You know, if I don't like it, doesn't mean that it sucks. You know, it just means it's different. You know, and I wish that sometimes, I know it's kind of kumbaya-ish, but I just wish people would just kind of take a breath sometimes. You don't have to just destroy everything you don't like. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that, and I can really only speak for within Project 2020. I hadn't collected cards in decades before it, and I'm back in it now, and I love being back in the hobby, but I can't pretend like I've been in it, last year even. And so, I look at that and I see like some pretty negative stuff out there. And two things. Number one, it's mentions, and so that's fine. I'm cool with it on that front. And then the second thing is like, we're in a really weird place in the world right now, and people are going through some shit, and that can manifest in different ways for different people. And so like, if somebody came on Twitter just to like bash somebody's art, like it could be a number of reasons. Like they could have just lost their job or be furloughed or whatever. And then they look at Project 2020 because they love baseball cards, and then they see that these cards are $20 each. That's an expensive. It's a premium price for a luxury good during a time that most people are cutting back on spending on luxury goods. And so knowing that, they could get bitter about that. And then maybe they see like, and then, to pile it on, they see like, someone getting a scratched case from Topps or taking a really long time to ship, which that's a separate conversation. And I think Topps is doing the best that they can. And I appreciate that. But like, I can only imagine if I had such a very small amount of
discretionary
income and I spent it on a luxury good that was supposed to be this premium product, and then I waited a super long time, and then it came and it was in a scratched case, and then like I tried to sell it on eBay, but then the price changed, and so the buyer backed out, like because that kind of stuff has been happening with the secondary market too. Like I can't imagine how fed up I would get. Like that would be really, really crappy. And I could see how that could translate into going back to Twitter being like, this sucks, everything's horrible, like the end. Because of all those things that like, is what it is.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Sometimes I just wonder that if, like I said, it's kind of like a hokey kind of thing, but if people just had a little more of an open mind about stuff, you would.
Sure.
If you came to some, I've had a lot of really, like if people that know me, I've had some really bad things happen in my life, and I've always tried to stay upbeat, and I would tell people that if you just keep an open mind, that it'll help you a lot. If you just
of course
look for the good in the artwork, not come and say this sucks, that sucks. And I know that's kind of a general, over the top thing to say to people, but you can't go down all the time. I realize a lot of people are down right now, and so maybe the objective should be to be the opposite, and that's where I would hope sometimes art would do that. It would be the opposite, where it make people feel something positive instead of something negative. Almost think pop art is a lot like music, where it can change your mood in two different ways. I guess if you hate it, I guess it could make you go down a dark road, but I mean, if it's good, it can totally change the way you feel about stuff.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that, mindset's everything. It's like really basically like the way that we like perceive things and react to the things that we perceive is like basically the only thing in the whole world that's kind of in our control.
Yeah, it really is. And you can lose that perspective so quick. I wish everybody in the world had an 8-year-old little girl for a little while, because it would totally, I had, I guess I'm tired all the time. I had coronavirus and so I couldn't see my little girl for 2 weeks. And to her, she like never even thought in her head that like I was going to die or something like that. She was told me, she goes, "Oh no, nothing will happen to you, Daddy. I'm just sad I don't get to see you every day." And just that perspective of somebody whose whole life is geared around being able to see you every day, it makes you realize that all the other shit in the world doesn't matter. If you can make somebody feel like that, then that should be your objective. And so I think if you come at things with a negative view all the time, you're never going to do that to anybody. You're never going to you might make a random person feel good or whatever if you just positive all the time. I was on that podcast with Eric Norton, the Beckett Live one. And right after that was over, a guy messaged me on Twitter, and it sounded like he was in like a real dark place in the message thing. And he said, just seeing somebody that was positive and stayed up, he goes, I really, really, really needed to see that tonight, because he had just randomly watched that. Yeah. And I thought to myself, that's what being positive can do to people. I mean, you can stay down here all the time, but if you just try and do this just a little bit, you know, you can really change things. And back to the art stuff, that's what art can do. Imagine if you made something that somebody really liked, like a whatever card, or the Mark McGuire card or whatever, that if they're having a really bad day, that they could hold that card or look at it and it makes them feel like I told you that memory of Tecmo Bowl or whatever, or Mark McGuire cards. That's a really cool thing to be able to do. So going back to what we were saying before, that's kind of the thing. I know I would like to be able to set myself up to be able to give that to more people, whatever that process is. I want to learn about that too, you know. So I can't just make the art 24. So that's my problem, is that I make the art constantly, and I need to think about the marketing and all that other stuff too.
Well, I think something that jumped out to me earlier that you said is how when you went and showed art at Beckett's school, and then all the kids did the cards, and like that was like the best feeling ever, and that's everything. It's great because kids don't have all the stuff in the head that the adult, you know, that us adults have, right? And so it's a little easier to get them to like have fun with something like that and like have a good perspective, where like you get in a room of adults and they're not, you tell them all to like draw baseball cards and they're going to probably be like, you know, I got other shit to think about, right?
I got to go,
you know, so I mean, maybe, and just something to think about for like you as you continue to like grow your business and brand is like, there's probably a lot of opportunity for, you know, doing art with kids in some capacity of, you know, workshops where kids are like opting in to come, and then they're coming, and like you're going to have these young open minds that are like excited to be there, right? Which is definitely a fun situation to be in. So, you know,
that's the end of me right there.
You know, almost like think about like wine and paint nights.
Yeah.
Except instead of wine, it's kids and paint nights, and maybe the parents come. It's almost like they're getting the kid. They can drop their kids off to paint, and then they can go have a date night, you know, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but like, I think that there's opportunities there of like, you know, you should do whatever makes you the most fulfilled and happy, and then try and build the business around that. And then I think
there's a bank. There's a bank down the street that's a circle that's gone. Like the building's still there or not. That would be the ultimate end game for me, is almost like painting in the round kind of thing, to have like the center of it be where I actually created stuff, and to be able to have kids and other people come in there to be able to, just exactly what you said. That would be the ultimate to me, to have like an open studio where people could come in there and I can help little kids and do all that. When I left, I worked for CSX, the railroad. And when I left there, almost like from some 80s movie, I just refused to do it. All the computer stuff I can do, I know how valuable it is. It's just like I refuse to do it. And I know even with this stuff that where this is going, the card market is going, is the digital cards. I understand that. And I understand the e-market. I know how to do the geotagging. I could make a card app. I could make a card that isn't. I mean, I could do all that cool stuff, the virtual reality, augmented reality. I know how to do all that. And so awesome. to me, the use for that is not necessarily me making a bunch of money off it, but to make, like I said, like this almost open studio thing where kids could come in and I would teach them. That would be cool to be able to teach kids how to go use that knowledge that's in my head and art stuff at the same time. That definitely is the end goal for me. Like if I could say 5 years from now what I want to have like a giant open studio around, like I live west of Atlanta, where kids could just come from, kids that would never be exposed to that could come out in a bus full, and I would teach kids everything, you know, kids of all colors, sizes, kinds, anything, anybody just come. And like that would be the ultimate for me, to be able to have a functioning studio that also little kids could come to. That would be awesome.
Totally, man. I think it's totally doable.
That's the goal.
Great. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Just start visualizing that, and you know, I'm all about visualization and like positive thinking, right? Think about that all the time, visualize that all the time, and obviously just wishing for something isn't going to make it happen, but if you think about something long enough and hard enough and it's always occupying your mind, your actions tend to start catching up and taking the steps that it takes to get there, you know?
It does, and that's the thing that's cool. I mean, there is a monetary side to this. If somebody wanted to be a gazillionaire, I'm sure you could. If you were talented enough and had enough marketing skills, you could probably make like an absolute fortune doing this. And that's fantastic, you know. But for me, the end game would be if I grossed this huge amount of money, would be able to take that money and, like I said, do something with it that would 50 years from now, there'll be little kids that are confident in doing stuff. And they might not be artists, but they might, the confidence they got from going from, they might not be able to go from A to Z as far as art, but they might be able to go from A to G, and to be able to show somebody that you can do that, and to be able to show people that we all can do that, that would be the real value in this for me, that I guess when I think about things in my head, it's not that I'm like anti-money or anything. I like buying stuff like everybody else, but it would be to be able to use money to do something cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool.
I know we haven't done too much of fan questions. I've been monitoring them, but we've kind of been in this. A couple things. Amazing Hall of Fame HOF said it sounds like an awesome nonprofit. Also, as a side note, you can make a very nice living from running a nonprofit. He says, or she, I'm not sure. And I agree. I think that that could be a cool nonprofit angle. Also, Mike asks, and this is off topic from the kid stuff, but this is back to the Project 2020 stuff. I thought it was actually a really good question. He says, do you connect with artists like F. and Sophia Chang, he put Change, but it's Chang, who use digital art to create their Project 2020 cards?
I like them both a lot, but I really like the F. ones. Just for me, my style, and I'm not anything I say is never negative, but for me, F. That's like exactly like kind of like how you do stuff and he does stuff. If you put those two together, it's kind of like where I live in my head. Is that for me personally? That's what I like a lot. So I like F. a lot. Yeah. Not that I don't like her. Hers was great too, but I really like his a lot. Like he just did the one of George Brett. Yep. That's so cool. And I messaged him. I said, you know what that one of George Brett looked like to me? I told him it looked like something that would be painted like on the build in like downtown Chicago or wherever, Kansas City or whatever, that it would be on the side of a building and people would go into a park and eat their lunch and look at that. And every day they would do something different, And I think it looks awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. James asked if you ever played offensive line for a famous quarterback.
No.
Okay. I thought maybe he knew a secret I didn't know. Was that?
Weird question. Does Scott do commissions or only sell the ones listed on the site?
That's a great question. So someone asked if you do commissioned work or if you only sell the things that are like that you've already made.
I could. I'm working on one for somebody. One of the people online wanted one for their dad was Stan Musial. I've been working on that one. And then there was another guy that has his dad was with Jackie Robinson at the 1955 World Series, and I told him I would do that if he'd get me some. He's getting me some better images, so right. I will absolutely do that stuff. But to this point, everything's been creative motivated, not monetary motivated. So I'm just kind of in the last couple of months transitioning to that.
It's awesome. And let's see here. I want to see what else we got. We're talking about. People like the kid paint night. I think it's pretty great.
Could you imagine what it would be to have hundreds of kids? It's almost like when you hear about one of those coaches that coached somewhere for 50 years and you see all the people that made a difference in their life. That would be what something like that could do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it would be fun to watch the evolution, because sometimes all it takes is just a little nudge in the right direction. Make a really big difference. Absolutely.
I grew up in a real ugly house, and I could imagine if I would have been little and I would have had somebody that was taking the time to do that, that would have been really cool, So I imagine some kids, and it's not always the ones that you are outwardly showing signs they live somewhere it's bad. Sometimes you have no idea. And so I think those kids would be the ones you could reach really well in an environment like that, because they wouldn't have to come tell you that, hey, it's real shitty at my house or whatever. They could just say, hey, can you help me paint this? And it's that little bit of confidence. Again, you might be the only person that shows confidence in them. And so something like that I think would be huge.
I think you're onto something, man.
Corny, but that's just the way I think. I wish I
corny at all.
I'm like not Gordon Gekko. I'm more like Mr. Rogers. This is big giant Mr. Rogers more than anything.
That's awesome. I love it. I love Mr. Rogers. And I love Bob Ross. I want to be like the modern day Bob Ross.
He's awesome.
That would be great.
He's the best way. So positive. It sounds corny, but that can really encourage, even if that's not your style, just hearing that over and over, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So what are you working on now? Are you in the middle of any pieces that you're excited about or planning?
The Sam Usual one for the guy with his dad, pretty cool. It's 1952 tops with his dad and Sam Usual together. His dad passed away, so I think it'd be cool to have it on his wall. And then I got something else I'm doing with Cal Ripken that's pretty cool that I like a lot. You know, that's my favorite player ever. Yeah.
Cal is?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I grew up right out in Maryland, Virginia, and right outside of Washington, D.C. And when I was little, he was pretty awesome. You know, that's who I liked from the start. And then the late 80s hit, and the Orioles were terrible. And I still love the Orioles. But then that's why I love McGuire and Canseco and all that. Because if you grew up in that, I mean, somebody now might not have a perspective of that, but if you grew up in that time period, those guys were like rock stars, you know, I mean, just crushing the ball. And that was a time period when people weren't hitting a lot. A home run leader might have 35 home runs or 30 home runs. Then here comes this guy, hits 49 as a rookie. I mean, that's pretty badass, you know.
It's amazing.
It's not like now where everybody, or there, that's gone down a little bit now, but I mean, he was pretty badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have Canseco right there with him. He's hitting 40 home runs and stealing 40 bases. I mean, it's just two badass guys. And they were kind of like those rock star kind of guys too there. You know, that whole team with Eckersley in the bullpen and La Russa, the kind of, I mean, that whole team was like the perfect team for the perfect time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was fun to watch for sure.
You grew up right there, didn't you? You said you were.
Yeah, just north of San Francisco, Marin County.
Yeah. Why did you like the Giants?
Good question. Dad, I know you're on the stream. Why'd we I mean, we had season tickets to the A's, so yeah. I don't know. Yeah, my dad'll chime in, I'm sure. And then we moved to Sarasota, Florida, which has spring training for the White Sox.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of games there too. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I'm a A's and a Giants fan. So when I decided to pursue art full time when I turned 30, and I quit a corporate marketing job to move home back in with my parents back north of the Golden Gate Bridge. And that was kind of right when the time of the Giants were just, you know, dynasty every other year. They were winning the World Series. And so a lot of my friends were going to games. And so I'd go to as many as I could go to, and had a great time at Giants games. So yeah, I'm both, honestly, but my dad says Candlestick was too damn cold. That makes sense.
That's awesome. You see those pictures of Candlestick from the 70s. It looks almost like a NASCAR race. There's always like trash in the background. And it's like in the videos you see, it's all swirling. It looks like there's a trash tornado in the outfield all the time, you know?
Yeah.
That would probably been
crazy. I can't believe they knocked it down. I did it's been a while now, but I did a helicopter ride over San Francisco. I'd never ridden in a helicopter until then. And we went over where Candlestick used to be, and like it's crazy that it's just a pile of rocks.
Yeah, it's just like gone, like it disappeared.
Yeah.
Now it's more to lose on the cards and everything else now, you know, that's kind of cool. I was somebody on Twitter was asking me if I would do one of Candlestick, and I was told him I was working with Nick. I was working on one of Candlestick, but I said it was like before they enclosed the back part of it where it looked kind of like Yankee Stadium. I can just imagine the wind that was blowing in that place in like the early 70s. That was probably pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You see an old plan of Candlestick before they enclosed the back side of it. It's kind of hard to do on the computer, but it's like a 3/4 of a horseshoe, and the whole area in the right field is wide open. So I imagine it was just like a wind tunnel through there. I bet that was awful.
Yeah.
Probably lost a lot of fans then.
Yeah, well, sent us to Oakland apparently, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
I really like AT&T Park too, which is nice. I think they called it Pac Bell Park at the beginning. And then I remember they changed to AT&T, and I was like refused to change the name in my head. But now I only know it as AT&T. It's a nice stadium for sure.
Do you like Barry Bonds?
Yeah, I like Barry Bonds.
Me too.
Yeah.
I like Barry Bonds a lot. And I kind of like those guys like that. They just don't care. You know, I like that a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I hate everybody I mean, I'm sure there's 8,000 people that hate him for every one person that likes him. But I mean, I like him.
Yeah.
Think about sometimes when he's another person. He was an awesome hitter, and you think about what I guess for me, I'm like the Mr. Rogers part of me that like everybody says he was like this bitter, angry guy. Well, his dad got traded around like 6 and 7 times because he was kind of like the stoic kind of guy. So I mean, Barry Bonds came up as a kid already bitter about the way his dad was treated. Of course, he's going to not trust the press. Of course, he's not going to trust the team. So now she did have an attitude problem, but
right.
I mean, that stuff's natural. I think sometimes it's easy to judge people unless you don't really take the whole picture in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not much about art, but
yeah. So you, besides Twitter, which by the way, I have your Twitter down below. Everyone else, make sure to follow Scott. I looked at, and maybe I think I was looking at the right one, but on Instagram, are you not really active on it?
I just was like about a month ago, I was starting to populate Etsy with good images of everything. And I took everything off of Instagram to put the stuff back up on there. And that's when I got the coronavirus about a month ago. So it was didn't really feel like it for a while now. Just in the last week or so, I feel like doing stuff again. So I've kind of started cleaning everything up and started going back to what I was doing, posting and doing all this stuff. So I would say probably by next week, if somebody wanted to go on Etsy, there'll probably be a few hundred things on there.
Oh, wow.
I'll try to put a bunch of stuff on Instagram as well. You know, I have like thousands of art images, and then it's almost like playing a game of spades where the stuff you see right now is not the best stuff, but I kind of just was waiting, almost like the foundational stuff, to see, well, if people like this, then I'll show them more. If they like that, then I'll show them more. You know, so I've got lots and lots and lots and lots more of this stuff.
Yeah. Wow, man, thousands. That's awesome. So how long have you been doing it?
I've been creating artwork like seriously probably for maybe like 6 years, maybe like something like that. You know, like, I mean, I always kind of do it. And like I said, my older brother was like the real artist. So it was kind of intimidating. And then like I told you, he passed away. And that was like the last conversation I had with him was like, don't like spend your life making apps or doing crap for the railroad nobody's ever going to care about. You need to like do something with it, you know. And he was a classical artist, and so he called what I did comic book art a lot. And the last conversation I had with him, he told me it wasn't comic book art, and that was just his way. He told me that it's weird because a lot of classical artists might be the most talented people in the world, but they don't make any money, you know. And he said that it's ironic that somebody like me that does the comic book art could end up making something that a gazillion people want and would end up everybody would remember and see it, you know, kind of like the Marilyn Monroe with the 9 stereograph things of her, you know, that's really not the most like technically sound piece of art ever made. But I mean, even somebody that hates art would look at that and recognize it's Andy Warhol, you know. And then I know when you were putting the dot, that when you splatter kind of paint on the cards, when you were doing that, everybody was calling that Jackson Pollock. Actually, Andy Warhol had a whole phase where he did stuff like that with art like that. He had a thing for BMW where he took like 20 minutes to, you know about that story? Or
no.
It was a really famous advertising thing where these artists were supposed to do models of the cars and then they would paint them up like that. And he would only do it on the real car. And he did his whole thing in like 20 minutes where it's just, that's what he saw in his head, you know? Yeah. That's awesome. If you like him, there's kind of a cutoff on his art that as he got older, I don't know if lazy is the right word, but he had started that interview magazine. He was doing all that crazy stuff and had all the lifestyle going on around him where he had 800 people at his house all the time.
Right.
So the later stuff, a lot of that was interns doing the screen printing and stuff like that. It was got kind of lazy. But some of the early stuff is really cool. And some of it's bizarre, like the ones of all the car accidents and all that kind of stuff. My favorite one's that orange. You ever seen the orange Prince one?
I don't think so.
He did one that's it's like a orange screen print of Prince from like 1984 or something like that. It's really cool if you ever see it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Nice. I see it right now. Yeah, it's great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and then awesome. I saw that he's also got like what other one's really cool? I can't remember. It's like 8 Elvises or 9 Elvises, something like that. 8 Elvises or something like that. That's another one that's really
like holding the gun, and they're all kind of overlapping a little bit.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
That's awesome.
I like him a lot.
Question, Mark Mosley. He's asking if we'll see any baseball card sized versions of your stuff.
Yeah, that's back to the. I can do them. Here's the thing, and it sounds so like haughty-taughty, that I can make on my printer. I can make the stuff, and I can do the cuts and all that. But it doesn't. So far, it hasn't looked like perfect. You know, I mean, it would look 99 out of 100 people go, man, this looks great. You know. But I don't want to sell anything to anybody unless it's like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the question came from about the printing. I can do the prints. The prints I figured out those. I got those now. It took a lot of trial and error to learn how to do the prints, but now they're looking really, really nice.
Yeah. Did you have to like dial in like the color settings of your laptop or computer to match exactly what was on the printer so that you were making sure that you're getting like what you're seeing on the screen?
Absolutely. And there's a whole thing to it, and that. If you just wanted to make a picture of your little girl that you had here, it's fine the way it's set up. But there's a lot of trial and error to do that, and that trial and error is very expensive because the ink,
you're using all the ink.
Yeah, it's like $600 and something for a run of the ink. For like like when you put ink in your printer at the house, it's like $80. You think it's just ridiculous. For one of these kind of printers, it's like $600. You know, so
wow.
Yeah, it's a little salty, especially when the first run of it.
That's a long time.
It doesn't. No, actually, it doesn't. No.
Oh,
That's why prints are so much. As people always think those prints are expensive. That's just a piece of. He's made 20 of those or whatever. Well, there's a reason it's expensive because the ink. And if you use the ultra chrome ink stuff that makes it look nice, then it's expensive. I mean, I'm sure you could use crappier ink and it would be cheaper, but.
Right.
Then you're right back to the original point. Why are you even making it if you're trying?
Yeah. Why have the nice printer? Exactly.
Why make art if you're just going to give somebody a crappy copy of it? You know, why even bother?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want people to have the nice version of what you made. You don't want to make like a junky version. So the long-winded answer, I have to figure that out. I'm working. That's one of the part of the thing I'm working on. I guess I need to find a printer I can trust that's not going to just destroy me on the price of it. You know, maybe somebody that watches this will talk to somebody or something like that and they'll contact me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said you were outside of Atlanta?
Yeah, west of Atlanta, about
like close to Atlanta. I feel like in a city as big as Atlanta, there's got to be some good printers.
There is, but the one guy I went to with some of my artwork, and I talked to him. He acted like we were like I told somebody, it looked like that scene in Blow when Johnny Depp gets busted for the last time, where the people come from behind that curtain. He was so paranoid about having anything that had an image of that was a licensed image or whatever on it that he didn't want anything to do with it, you know. And so, and it was not only did not want anything to do with it, I felt like I was being like recorded or something. It was bizarre. And then another guy, he said he could do it. He said, "Yeah, just give me the files." And that was the shadiest thing ever. So I thought this is gonna be the guy that just runs off 15,000 of them, you know. And so everybody in the world it has no value at all, you know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think honestly, with the printer, it'd be hard. I don't know how you would get around. Like, I mean, I can't imagine working with a printer and not being. I'd have to be comfortable giving them the files. But again, like we kind of talked about it. Like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, I think that also, like, you know, there's companies that do print baseball cards, right?
Yeah.
You could send you know, and you'd be sending them a much smaller version of your thing. So like the largest they could print it at quality would be card size. Hard to enforce and keep them from printing more, but
you wouldn't still send them that at 600 pixels or 500 pixels?
No, yeah. Whatever, 3.5 by 4.5 or 2.5 by 3.5, whatever the card size is at 600 pixels.
Well, now that I'm not going to I've already sounded cheesy, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. The whole Mr. Rogers thing, the thing I'm worried about with the cards is not that I lose something, is that I say I sell 50 people, just Mark McGuire, I sell 50 people a Mark McGuire card for $20 each, you know, and then the printer makes an extra 100. I don't care what the printer makes or anything. What I'm worried about is that I sell people cards for $20 a piece, and then 3 weeks later they go on eBay and some guy's selling them for $2 a piece, you know, that had the same file. And I'm not saying that I'm of a level that somebody would care anyway right now, but eventually if I was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what bothers me. It's not I didn't want to say that before because that sounds like so full of shit.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it's the truth. That's really what bothers me is I don't want. It's the same thing with the prints. It's with anything. That's why I've been so slow about the business part of it, because I didn't want to sell a bunch of prints unless they were really nice. I wanted to have the nicest printer you could possibly buy before I really sold a lot of prints. And I want to make sure that if I sell people a card for X dollars, that they're not going to see it 3 weeks later on eBay for $2 a piece or something, because that would suck. I mean, it's not. I care that I lose that $2. I don't want them to get screwed out of it. So. That's kind of where my head's at on that.
What about this? What if you printed up, 100 cards or however many cards?
Yeah.
From a printer, get them delivered to you first, or it could be prints. There's cards or prints, whatever it is, and sign them.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly
sign a number.
Yeah.
And then keep track of, number 1 of 25 went to Blake. Number 2 of 25 went to so and so on the 3. So that where they all go. And then if you see someone on eBay, who put it up on eBay, or if it's not real. I think that like I said, we kind of mentioned this, but like imitations, one of the finest forms of best forms of
that part is cool.
Who cares if someone's ripping your shit off? It just means that you're making enough noise that someone thinks it's worth the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just my thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I get that part of it. It's really honestly not about me. I just wouldn't want. I just think that would be crappy to do to somebody else. And so at every step of this, that's really what's in my head. Is that I'm trying to do like everything on the most up and up I can, and the end person is getting not only a real representation of what I made, and they're also getting it at a price that's fair to them. They're not going to tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to be one of those people. If I sell you a print for $75 or $100 or whatever, that's because I figured out how much it costs to do the print, how much it costs to mail and box the print, and I'm not trying to hose you. That's what I figured out, a price where I can make some money, but I'm not trying to do that. It would be the same thing with a card, that I would want to do that. Like, I see some of those guys that make what they call it, like custom cards or whatever they make, that aren't really custom cards. It's where they just take a design that already exists, and they literally just cut the box out of the middle and take a photo that somebody else took, and they put them together, and then they sell what they call a custom card for $15 or whatever, and I see that, and I think I don't care. I don't see that as competition, but I think of the end person that's buying some of this stuff for $10 or $15, whatever. I'm thinking, man, I hope you like that a lot.
We talked about the pop art thing, right? If people, whatever, you don't have to paint a picture to make pop art.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just collage.
Yeah.
So that's an art form. So I got to disagree with you there. I think it's dope. When I see people splicing up cards and making them into
no, not that. Like what Jason's doing, where he's cut. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about digitally, where they're doing. Yeah. Like my friend Jason Schwartz, it's making. I think he just sent some Heavy J, where he's making it with the glitter cards and all that.
Heavy J.
I think that is awesome that he's doing that. And everything he makes from that, you know what he's doing with it? Every dollar goes to different charities. So when people see him selling those online, that he sells them for 30 or 50 or whatever, literally not the profit, every cent of that he donates to like the Negro Leagues Museum or the Shoeless Joe Museum or Kirk Gibson Foundation. He donates the whole thing. So he's doing the postage out of his pocket, the supplies out of his pocket, all that when he sends those to people. So he not only makes the card, he's that to me that's as awesome as it gets. I was more talking about the people that would take a picture of the Blake Jamieson Mark McGuire card off of eBay or off of wherever, and then they put like a black border around it or something like that on their computer, and then make 20 crappy copies of it on their computer and then sell them for $15 a piece. That's kind of what I was more talking about. I definitely was not talking about the people who create stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I don't know. If someone's going to rip off my card and make a slightly modified version and try and make a buck from it, I'm flattered, man. It just doesn't bother me, because like the people that buy that are people that are looking for my art for $15, and that doesn't exist. Well, actually, there are some on eBay right now that are $15, which I think is a steal.
Yeah.
But in general, in the grand scheme of like, it's just it doesn't bother me. If someone wants to like knock off my shit and go sell it for a couple bucks, whatever, because I don't think that the end user is going to think that it came from me. Maybe they will. and maybe they'll bitch about it to me on Twitter, and I'll be like, yeah, that's not my card, but I'll send you a real one for free, unless you see the difference. And like that's literally what I would do if that happened. If someone got what they thought was mine, turned out to be some kind of crappy counterfeit, fake, crappy print, and then it's like, yo, this sucks, then I'd be like, oh, I'll send you a real one. But
that's the way you should be. That's awesome. Yeah, I wish I had that same outlook. I just, I don't know. I just don't like that a lot. I guess I don't know the right word for it, but it's.
No, I get
it. Somebody has $30 to spend, just like what you said earlier about the Topps 2020 card. If they had $30 to spend, I guess there's that part in my mind that I want them to get the best value they can for their $30. That if they bought a real card of yours for $30 off of or whatever from Topps, that at least has a chance of being something later, even if they decide they don't like cards anymore. If you buy something that's just totally crappily done fake of something, then it's not. That's just different to me. I think it's kind of like you ruin the spirit of it. I think. I mean, you can different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. You have I have a pretty positive outlook on a lot of things, but that's a very positive way to look at that. I didn't even really think about that. Just think of it as somebody liked it. That's great,
Yeah, you got another fan. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. Let's see what else. Does Beckett do any art with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was doing what were we doing the other Larry Birds? That's what those were. She did I do the 86 flare where I make it look like Scott and then I put the artwork inside of it. She was doing a Larry Bird of that where I put the stencil of the digital stencil of Larry Bird in there, and I showed her that, and I showed her how shadowing works and how the dark will be on this side and the light on that. And then she was painting and blotting and doing it all on my Mac Pro and just doing awesome. It. And I posted it. She's like a diva, but she got mad that I'd already posted it. She said she was not done. She needed to do more shading. Okay. That's why I did that Larry Bird I put on there, and I put the shadows on his face on the other side of where the Larry, there's like a Larry Bird bending over and a Larry Bird standing or shooting, and then his face, and I showed her how the shadows would do that. And I took the light like behind me in here and held something up, and I showed her how it can bend two different ways or one, or if you totally block it on one side where it comes, just showing her stuff like that.
That's awesome. How old did she say? She's 8?
8, yeah. She's my favorite thing in the world. Yeah.
That's great, man.
You want to know where she got her name? You want to hear another Mr. Rogers story? I'm sure you're getting sick of this, but when my ex-wife was pregnant with Beckett, my ex-wife's like she's a teacher and she's not a sports fan or anything like that. She's not like that person you would expect to fall for what I'm about to tell you. I said, "Can I tell you something? Run something at you, and just you hear the whole thing before you do that." And she's like, "I guess." So I start by saying, I want to name our daughter Beckett. She was like, the baseball card magazine you get. It was like almost like there's no way in hell.
Yeah.
So I told her when I was a little kid, I didn't live in a really good place, and so my grandmother bought me a subscription to Beckett magazine, And so when that book came every month, that was like the heavens opened and the light came down, and I could see where cards had gone up and gone down and all that. And I would spend hours and hours and hours reading that. And it was like the light in the tunnel for me. That every month was the greatest thing when that would come. And I said, when Beckett comes, I know that's what she's going to be, and my favorite thing ever. I just know it in my heart. And so I would really like to name her Beckett, and that's why. And
awesome.
So my ex-wife went from being like, there is no effing way we're doing that, to like, okay, that'd be fine,
Yeah, she got behind it. That's great.
Yeah, she was a boy. I had her talked into Satchel Cal, so it was going to be.
I like the name Beckett a lot. Honestly.
Do you really? Thank you.
It's really cool, man. I love it.
There are teachers. Everybody always says they like it. Then they ask where the name came from. I'm almost scared to tell them it came from a baseball card magazine, because then just like, wow, wow.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I think it's great.
And she's my absolute favorite thing in the world. I would trade everything for her in a second.
Yeah,
in a second. Yeah.
What it's about.
Yep. She is the best.
Yeah. Okay, so changing gears,
okay.
I want to go back to something we were talking about a minute ago. You're talking about the print prices. You
yep.
say, oh, I want to sell it for $75 because, I've done the math and, I make a little bit, but I don't want to, gouge someone or whatever. I think as your business expands, If there could be a time in your business where you have more overhead, you have a lot more going on, and a bigger name, that it makes a lot of sense to make those prices way higher. And even though at the end of the day, they might be getting the same print, $75, $200 or whatever, I don't look at it as gouging. And this is just, again, my take. I think that
I want to hear your take.
so like you put in all this work to get to where you're at, building up your brand, building up your name, and your art has value that is a lot more than just the cost of the materials, and a lot more than the cost of the time that you spent or above the $600 ink.
Yeah.
And I don't think it really matters even how long it took you to make. And I think like it's honestly like it came up a lot when I was working with athletes, and a lot of them saw the volume of work that I was putting out. And it sounds like you're similar because you say you have a library of thousands of images. Yeah. I don't have thousands, but I probably have 1,000 maybe.
That's accurate for me. 1,000 would be accurate.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, just, a lot. But these football players, sometimes they'd be like, how much are paintings? And, or whatever, if they're interested in one, I give them the price list and it's based on size. And they're like, well, how long does it take you to make one?
Doesn't matter.
And I say, it doesn't, however long it takes. And sometimes people press on it and really want to know. You'd be like, oh, come on, you're trying to make like $2,500 for like a couple hours of work. And I'm like, look, man, you play a football game just like everyone else. You spend 60 minutes on the field. Everybody gets paid different amounts. And that's because you're not being paid for those 60 minutes. You're being paid for the double days and skipping, going out with friends and getting up super early and eating right and like doing all the choices that you've made and all the training and all the practice to get to that point determines eventually your value, right? Of what someone's going to pay you to be on the football field. And someone else that's in the same position might be paid a totally different amount. They're doing the same job, but they have a different background. My price point comes from my background. I put in the work. I'm happy with my work. This is the price. And honestly, like it works really well with them because they're like, oh yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense because I do get paid millions of dollars to play football, but not because I spend an hour on the football field. It's because of all these other hours and all these other things that I put in. And so I think like as you move through, and even myself too, like my prices have gone up pretty substantially since Project 2020. And it's like supply and demand. I have for the first time ever, I have a waiting list, which will be months of commissions, which is great. And I only do typically like one commission a week. So, I've got a handful of commissions and it's going to keep me busy for at least a few months. And that is with increasing prices. And it just makes sense if that's what the market can bear. And that's what I believe my art is worth. And also the market will pay for it. It gives me a lot more opportunities to reinvest into my business to, like it's great when everyone's laying people off during COVID and I'm like, I'm hiring, let's see what you got. And like, it's really a cool feeling to be able to like to do well, but also spread it around. So yeah, I mean, I think that like, don't get too hung up on how much like print costs you to make or how much time it takes you to make. Just build that brand and put in the work. Put the price where it's good to feel comfortable. And if you're at a point now where you're like, okay, this is a good price where like I feel good and I made the money that I need to make. Also, they feel good about they're paying the thing, but like it could be $75, it could be $100. Most people on the receiving end are still going to get $100 print and they're going to love it the same amount. In fact, some people might even love it more because like you pay a lot of money for something, you end up valuing it more.
Sure.
You sell somebody a $75 print, maybe they put it up in their game room. You sell somebody a $7,500 print or original or whatever, right? That's above the mantle. That's like the fireplace. That's the centerpiece of the house because that's the mentality. People spend $7,500 or $75,000, or whatever. Like obviously, art, no limits. And so like, I also look at it like that of like, I want my art to be represented really well with the end user. And if I do charge more, I get a better spot on the wall. If I sell somebody a painting for $25, they're going to be like, all right, cool. And they're not even going to take the time to hang it up. I mean, not everyone will. So anyways, I just think that's worth mentioning in terms of the price stuff. I just had that in my head.
Yeah, it's something that I need to be conscious of too. I mean, it's definitely in my brain and on my mind because exactly what you just said. And back to the thing with Beckett, if I spent hours and hours and hours and hours learning how to teaching myself to do what I'm doing, that when I make a print, that if I sell it for 100, am I really doing her the most justice? I mean, if I look online and I see a lot of these prints selling for $400, $500, $600, $300 for a print when it gets to the real big ones I could do or whatever, and I think, is I try not to judge other people's art, but I just try to judge the scope of things. That if the scope of what this person's producing sells for $300 fairly easily, am I really taking, if I sell that print for $100, am I not so much giving this person a deal as I'm taking $200 away from Beckett, or I'm taking $200 away from an even better printer or computers or stuff I could buy, So I definitely recognize that. And then what you just said makes a lot of sense, that they're not just paying for that print right there. They're paying for the $600 worth of ink I wasted learning how to make the prints look nice, and that I got nothing for, So that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So what would you just straight up? What would you price a print for if it was a 14 by 17 print that not you now, but me now, not at your level yet, but where I'm selling it and I have it on Etsy or I make my own site or whatever? What would you sell a 14 by 17 print for? Like 2 years ago, Blake Jamieson, what would you sell it for?
Probably $100 unframed, but also give them some upsell options. So, do you want me to sign it? It's an extra $20. Do you want me to, or sign and inscribe it to you or to your daughter? And then another big one is the frame. So I would, if you have that size in mind that you love, I would try and find a stock frame that you can buy like on either at a local store, like a Blick, or if you have like Blick is a chain, but if you have like a local support local small business is good. But like something that you can consistently always purchase is like just a clean, modern black floating frame or something like that. Mm-hmm. So if it's, and I don't know, I don't really work at that specific size, so I don't know offhand like this frame size that would go with it. The frame would probably be a little bit bigger, and you'd have maybe some mat board around it. But you could also go to like Amazon. I actually did this recently, like literally today. I ordered these like plexiglass kind of sandwich frames, which are great for prints. Mm-hmm. They have like brackets, and I'm trying to find my go-to. I don't have it yet. So I ordered from 3 different companies, different, roughly the size frame that I want. And my idea for those is I'm actually going to, at some point, start framing my stencils, because I hand cut these stencils. Many of them I only use once. Some of them I use a couple times, but like I don't use them forever. And so I'm going to start framing the stencils in between glass, being able to mount those. And those are going to be sold as like true one-of-ones. I mean, some of them will just be kept because some of them are, I think, I don't know. Actually, scratch that. Everything is for sale. Anything will sell for a price. And so like I'm trying to decide what the right frame is, because all my stencils are either 2 sizes in general, unless someone's ordering a custom thing. It's an 18 by 24 stencil or it's a 24 by 36 stencil. That's like 95% of my business are those 2 sizes. So once I find the go-to frame for that, and I'm going to take each of the frames and I'm going to hang a stencil on, and I'm going to mount it on the wall. I'm going to see the instructions they come with. I'm going to stress test it, and see which one's good. As soon as that happens, I'm ordering like 20 of them or something, and they're not cheap. They're like 100. Well, they range from like $80 to $130 for these frames. That's a lot of money to shell out just for inventory that's sitting, and you certainly wouldn't have to get that many. And also, if you weren't doing like glass, you could do like the floating, like black frames are typically cheaper. But I would get, anyways, going back to your point, getting in stock, having like 10 frames on hand at home at your house, and every time you sell a print, $100 base, a little bit extra if you want it to be autographed and personalized, and then kind of a lot extra if you want it framed, because framing is expensive, it's time consuming, and it's also bigger and more expensive to ship, and you have to take all that into account. But I'd be thinking like, $100 out the door, 125 with an auto, or like 190 with a frame or something like that. And you look for something where you're getting frames. And maybe if you buy them in bulk, you buy them 10 at a time, you could get frames for like, I don't know, probably $20-$30 per frame for something in that size. That's totally a guess. I don't know that for sure. Thank you, Bean.
Would you do cards and cards, the 14 by 17? Would you make bigger prints of your artwork if people wanted it? Like say if people wanted bigger prints of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And also that goes back to like thinking about the placement you're going to get on people's walls. When you get those big, when you send someone to big prints, it's going to be a centerpiece in the room, and it's going to draw attention, and that's going to get you more business. But also like kind of tied into that is like if you get the frame option, even with the bigger ones, I would have a frame option. Okay. And again, it's more expensive, but if you ship somebody something that's completely ready to hang and put on the wall, it's going to get on the wall faster, and it's going to get on the wall more often.
Okay.
And I know that for a fact because I've shipped people rolled up prints and it's in a drawer. And I could tell you, man, I mean, I have your prints. They're gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, I should show you how many prints I have. So many. All right, well, prints. I mean, I have like just so many awesome prints of just some that I purchased, some that have been gifts. Yeah. Some, like here. These are so sick. Awesome. Like bananas.
Thank you.
I love it. And by the way, guys, so these are some that Scott sent me that are just so rad.
What do you think about on the Jordan? Do you think that's corny where I have the goat and the trophy and all the stuff in the background, or do you think that's cool?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think it's great. I wouldn't change a thing.
Okay.
But the point is
they just sit in a drawer if you
these are awesome.
Thank you.
These are so cool. Like I'm very particular, obviously, as an artist. I want to take those and get them framed professionally. Like I'm going to get those ones framed professionally, and it's not cheap and it's time consuming. But I love doing that, and it's just like, I mean, and that whole drawer is full of prints. I have probably like 50 prints that I need to at some point get framed, and I'll be starting taking them because the frame shop that I use also was closed during COVID.
Yeah.
But like and again, it's definitely more expensive, but if you can ship it to me where it's already framed and I can just go bam straight on the wall, like the whole time that these have been sitting in my drawer, people could have been coming into my studio being like, oh my God, that Jordan's awesome. I love the goat and the trophy, like, I mean, and that would happen. So I think that if you can ship people stuff ready to go, like I might even, and I'm kind of like talking myself into this right now, but I might even stagger the prices so much so that it's like screw $100. A print raw is 150, and then with the frame is 175.
Yeah.
So you basically you make the frame like a loss, looks like a loss, right? Because they're getting like a $30 or $40 frame for $25. So then almost everyone that orders is going to go, yeah, I got to pay the extra 25 for the frame. And you're looking at it like, okay, great. Well, $175, easy. That covers my printing. That covers my frame. Yeah. And then if you do happen to sell a print and you have $150, then you could even reach out to them and say, hey, just want to let you know the frame that I'm giving you for $25 extra. If you want it, I'm spending $40 on. So I really think it's worth it. If you don't want it, no problem. Maybe you have a frame guy, or maybe you have something in mind for this. Fine. And in which case, you do really, really well on those prints. You sell a print for $150 that, before you were selling for $70, you can invest that into more ink, play around, make some more mistakes, whatever. That's what I would do.
And so you would almost scrap the Etsy type thing and just build a site where you have your own store. That's what I guess I'm gonna have to do.
I would.
I've been so not doing that.
I can help kind of give you some ideas on that. I've done as far as like starting out and user friendliness, Shopify is great. And I've been pretty happy with Squarespace. Squarespace is what I'm currently using for my pro athlete portrait site. My dad, actually, who's on the stream, is building a custom site, which I'm very excited about. We're going to be launching super soon. And I don't know if you know or anyone else on the stream knows, but like my internet website presence is so fragmented right now. And it partially is kind of ties into like what you talked about focus and like having a niche is like my pro athlete portraits is my athlete things. And that's really what the brand is right now. But I still have BlakeJamieson.com, BlakeTheArtist.com, BlakeJamieson.shop, which was my original Shopify. Like I have all these different sites. It's really confusing and annoying, both for like me to manage and then also for people to find. So we're literally like, we're consolidating it all into Blake.art, which is going to be dope.
Cool.
But for you, you know, if you're just like, okay, I want to basics, you know, want to get into it, some site design stuff. I would say probably Shopify is going to be the most straightforward, and it costs like, I think it's $30 a month for a basic plan. So you sell one print a month, you're golden. Now, you don't necessarily have to take the stuff off Etsy, especially if it's moving, if it is selling. Keep that income stream and build the site alongside it. And you know, you don't even need, then you don't have to worry about having downtime of like, you're not selling anything on Etsy, but you don't have a website yet and you're stressed about getting it up. Like just take your time with it. Take whatever time you need. Reach out to me anytime if you want help. But I think that would be a great way to go. And, you know, you can have it on Shopify. Someone goes to buy a print. They're like, okay, I want this Michael Jordan print. You have a drop down. It's like 14 by 21 or it's 24 by 36, you know, or whatever, whatever sizes. I think that would be a gorgeous 24 by 36.
So you're saying that like most professional artists, like what you are going to be selling 18 by 24 and 24 by 30. That's like the standard sizes. That's what I should switch to then.
You do whatever you want. I just gravitated towards those sizes. I don't know. There's nothing. I mean, there's a ton of standard sizes in our world, and standard aspect ratios. So I think it's more important that you choose a standard aspect ratio than you choose a specific size of a print or a painting. Because once you're doing it at like a 2 to 3, and in some cases 3 to 4 aspect ratio, but I prefer the 2 to 3, which is like 24 by 36 stuff. Then you can kind of scale. You can go up and down anyways.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good thing from Tony Shrek saying number the prints. Make a low print run and make a higher price. I think that's a great idea. Like, you know, you make a Jordan, you print 10 of them out at your house, and you number them 1 through 10, and you say, this is all I'm going to do with that one. And I mean, that is all you know, and that's all that exists. And then you could charge a premium. You can say they're $500 each. And maybe, and I don't know the numbers, but like maybe you do a typical print and you on average sell, let's just say like 6 of them over whatever, like on average you sell 6 of a print, you're on to the next, you're selling 6 of those. And I don't know, maybe it's 60, maybe it's 16, maybe it's 600, but whatever the number is, let's just say for example's sake, the number is 6. You could instead you could do the next print and you could say, hey, this is numbered 1 through 10. Those are going to sell out very fast. If your average is 6 and you say these are numbered 1 through 10, those 10s will go very fast. And then you just literally increased by 40% the amount of sales you did off of one digital drawing or painting that you created, right? And that could scale both like up too. Like if you normally are selling 15 of them, do an addition of 25. I bet you'd sell all 25 of them.
Wow. So what? Another thing. Again, I'm sorry, I'm bugging. This is probably totally not what you expected today.
But this is exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I wanted.
When you're doing this, so like I get like 8,000 messages. People want to know when I'm going to sell cards of this and when I'm going to sell this and that. And it's hard to say I'm trying to do it the right way and not send you shit in the mail. Basically, you know, I'm trying to. If you get a card, when you do get a card from me, I want it to be like slick. You know, I mean. So do you think that's the right way to do it, to build it as you know it's super quality, or would you just kind of push stuff to get it out there? What do you think about that?
I'm a hybrid. I think that on one hand, I think it's good to build up the demand, but for two reasons. The quality thing that you mentioned is good. Like you want to send a quality product you're comfortable with. The other thing is building up this hype and telling people, no, you cannot buy yet, makes people want to buy more. And so the best advice I could give you on that is every time someone hits you up, start asking for their email address.
Okay.
Email address is going to help you take control of your business more than having their Twitter handle will. Now, okay. and again, this is something on a separate conversation or offline I'm happy to help you with. But I think that something like a MailChimp is what I use. Very, very straightforward email platform. I honestly don't email as much as I should. I know that it's the best thing. It's really easy to look at someone else's business and tell them these are the steps you should take, just like someone else could do that to me. Yeah. But gather that for now, you don't even have to worry about sending them anything. Just every time you get that, you could create a really simple form on MailChimp. You just send them this one link to say, hey, cards are coming soon. Fill out this link. I'll let you know when they're available. Super simple template reply, collect those emails. And then when you are actually ready to sell the cards, fire up MailChimp, send an email, one email to everyone, say, hey, cards are ready. I know you wanted one, but there's only 100 and there's 150 you on the list. So you got to act fast. And I'm not saying that just to be not like a skeezy, like sales tactic, but like, the reality is like, you should probably figure out how many cards you're going to print based on how many people are on your list of people who want cards, and then add some because some other people that haven't signed up for the list might want the cards, but like you should kind of base that on one thing or the other too. And then when you reach out to everyone, maybe you give it, you get the idea. Like I think that then you get, also you have this like ongoing possible communication with, with your customers, and you kind of have an idea of how many you're going to sell before you ever commit to like printing them yourself or being a printer. And the demand is higher. Like people are just going to want to buy them more if they have to wait for it.
Okay. What about, do you think, showing people how you make stuff? Like have you ever seen Chai World on YouTube? He does a lot of those drawings where it looks like the face, the neck's dripping, it looks almost like it's melting. He does a lot of the vector art of different. Sometimes you get a chance just to look. It's really cool to watch him. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of vector artwork where he does like those, and his are the ones that's kind of like his trademark. You see it a lot now. People are copying it where it looks like it's kind of the bottom of the neck is like it's like melting.
Sure.
And so he does that. Do you think when you show people how you make stuff, do you think it makes it less legitimate or more legitimate? Yours is different because you're actually showing people how cool what you're doing. They're not saying that in a corny way, but when like the Steph Curry thing you did, that's really cool. If somebody doesn't know how stuff works, to watch how that's made, that's super cool to watch. And so do you think it has the same mystique on a computer digitally, like to show somebody like almost Bob Ross style, like this is how I made this from start to finish? Do you think that's good, or you think that kind of makes people think, oh, this is some shit I could do myself kind of thing? When
I think
like the guy earlier today on Twitter, like he thinks that because
I think it's great. I think you should show as much as you're comfortable showing. I would be as transparent as possible. Okay. And because, you've done this 1,000 times and you've gotten better and better and better.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they see exactly every step of the way of how you do it. If they're not well-versed with the program and art and drawing and everything else that you've spent all the time doing, they're not going to be able to even do it close. And if they try, that's great because you're inspiring other people to try to be artists, right? Like that's a fun part of the process. Yeah. And like, I think that there's a lot of, we'll go back to an athlete thing. Mm-hmm. You see these athletes do amazing work, right?
Yeah.
And we see some part of the process. We see some of them posting the workouts and doing the work. And it'd be like, oh my gosh, Saquon's benching 6 billion pounds 12 times. And like, sure, I could go to the gym and I could try and do Saquon Barkley's workout, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be Saquon Barkley. Like, it wouldn't happen. And the same thing is going to happen with your art. I think you'll find if you show the process. And honestly, like you could get some really good feedback. Like you might have other artists, you might be doing something one way, and then an artist sees it and they're like, you could inspire them, or they could be like, hey, you should try this filter or this effect or this brush. I think it'd be really cool. But people aren't going to know to tell you that unless they see the process anyways and see what you are doing. So I think that there's nothing but advantages to sharing every part of the process. I mean, it's going to be after Project 2020 probably, but like I want to put together like an entire course of literally, it's like, let Blake Jamieson teach you how to paint a Blake Jamieson. Like I will literally give you every single part of the process. Here's how I pick my photos. Here's what I do in Photoshop to resize it, change the opacity and print it out. Here's the printer that I use. Here's the X-Acto blades I like and the mat that I like. I glue it down with this glue. I cut it out. When I'm cutting, this is kind of the strategy. I want to be doing like these things. Like I'll just talk them through my process. And I hope that like some people will follow it to the T and do the best version of it that they can and show it to me. And I'll be like, awesome. Here are the things that I would do differently. Like, based on how you did that here, this is how I would do it to make it a little bit more like me, but you don't have to be like me. You can be like you. I just want to like teach people like Bob Ross. Like he literally was just like, yeah, just do this. And like so many people watched Bob Ross and they sat there probably trying to paint happy clouds and mountains and stuff. The paintings don't look the same, but it's nothing like it wasn't because Bob Ross had secrets he didn't tell people. It was just because it takes those 10,000 hours. And like, I'm confident that I put them in already and I'm still putting them in, and same thing with you. So like, share the process.
So then when they buy it, do you think they'd still buy the print, the higher end prints, even though they saw how? That's what I guess what you really do. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay. I was thinking it would be cool to show people some of this stuff because it's sometimes, for example, like that people that don't know what we're talking about, but there was a guy on Twitter that was being obnoxious like 2 minutes before we started. And I think sometimes people don't see what's involved. And I think they would have a much more of a not appreciate me. I don't care if they don't like me, but an ability to appreciate stuff if they saw the process of how it's made. I think it'd be cool to show them, but I wasn't sure if that was going to devalue what I'm doing when I show people how to do it.
I don't think so, man. I think that what you're forgetting is that the things that are easy to you now are only easy because they were hard for so long. And you're going to show someone and it's going to look easy, and that's okay. Because if they go and try and do it, they're going to realize that it's not easy, man. And the fact that it feels easy to you and you might make it look easy doesn't mean that it is. And it doesn't mean that like, I just don't think it matters. And I think that like, also like the people that see the process, if they see the process and decide not to buy because they got to see with what's inside like the black box, I don't know. I just don't think that's the customer you want anyways.
You probably weren't going to appreciate it.
Who cares? Like, it's like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's nothing that you can, only things to gain from sharing the process and being like fully transparent. And I try and do that with a lot of things, with my art, like creation, and then also like the business side of things. Like I'm very, try to be as transparent as possible with people of like, oh yeah, this is what I do. Like, this is how I run my business. Like my prices for my original paintings are online, published, and anyone can look at them. One of the things that really bothers me about the art business is some of the kind of old traditions that, really like, I guess maybe galleries started it, but like the whole like inquire for price seems shady to me, because it's like, well, why would I need to inquire? Like, are you going to change the price based on like, you think I have enough money or something? It just doesn't feel right to me. And so I've felt like that for, I don't know, of a while, of just like, I try to be super transparent. This is the price that, and I tell people too, like I show people what I'm working on. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. It's this size for this person. Like people can do the math. They know what my business, like people could figure out a lot of my business, just by like the things that I share, but I don't care because I have nothing to hide. Like I think that, I think it's awesome that I get to do what I do, and I'm fortunate that people pay me to do it. And, I'm happy to help other people hopefully get to be able to do similar stuff.
Okay.
Cool. What else you got for me? I really love this, man. To be honest, it's awesome.
Really? I'm thinking I'm boring you to death as I'm writing down stuff as you say it. I don't know if you can see it what I'm doing, but
well, also the good thing about the internet is this chat will live on YouTube, for ever, as long as Google's around.
Yeah, so other people could learn the same stuff what we're talking about.
No, it's great. I mean, honestly, the same amount of people are here now as when it started. People are loving it.
Cool. So when you sell something, just no BS question then, if you want to know. So if I sell somebody, say things keep progressing and people want it. When you sell, for you personally, when you sold a card for $250 or $500 or whatever, that 3 years ago you would have sold for $30 and thought, man, that's cool that I sold that for $30. Do you feel weird at all inside at all? Because that's kind of, for me, what's kind of weird sometimes is that I feel this when people want, like, say that there's one thing I did of Ted Williams on a 59 Flair, Ted Williams, him swinging with Fenway Park behind him, or the street map of Fenway Park. A bunch of people want that. And I bet if I wanted to, I could probably sell 500 of those cards if I want to, and I could sell a bunch of the cards. There's a part of me inside that feels almost guilty after a certain, not guilty, but weird after a certain point, that if I sold 10 of those or 100 of those, that, I've been paid that's a lot of money I've made off of one piece of art I did. So at what point did you start just feeling that this is just what I do and this is my business? What made you make that jump from feeling weird or awkward about what you're doing? Like, did you ever feel like there was a point where you felt
honestly,
weird?
so I think it's tough to say. So one thing that I think makes me feel good about raising my prices is, and honestly, I owe my collectors. Like I said, I can preach about email marketing all day long. I don't do it as well as I could, but I would, every year since I started painting full time, roughly around the first of the year, I would raise my prices anywhere from like 10 to 20%. And I would, because it was great, because then it gave me a chance in December, usually, which also is around Christmas and people are buying art for Christmas. So I reach out to all my collectors, and sometimes it's in the form of a mass blast, and usually it's more personal, or I'm texting people or I'm emailing. It depends on our relationship and what they've done. But I'm letting them know, say, hey, thank you so much for being part of my artist journey. Still at it. Just wanted to give you a little update. I did this, and this year. I've got big goals for next year. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be raising my prices. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. So if you have any art in mind, happy to do it for the price that we've already been working together for. I hope you can understand, I want to run a business and I've got big dreams. And every single person is like, I'm so happy to hear that. Everyone is so stoked, because those people that got in and got the card for $30 that's now $250 or whatever, they feel like they were smart. They picked the winner, right?
That's a good point.
And that's me. Like, it means a lot to them. And then really if you keep getting this touch point where you keep raising your prices, do it little by little, as comfortable as you are, let the collectors know and let them know why, and let them know, give them a chance to get in for one more piece at the current price because they've been good to you. You're going to sell more art because they're going to have urgency, right, to act. They're going to be really proud of you for raising your prices. That's going to give you more confidence to keep upping that. Because I mean, there's no limit on art. It's literally one of the only industries without a ceiling, which is really, really cool. And that's going to help. And then it's also going to remind them what you're doing and get them excited. Oh, Scott's business is growing. And then they might take the print out of the drawer and they might frame it and put it up on the wall, or they might talk about you at the next dinner party. All that stuff matters, and you don't ever get to see it. It's all intangible, but I know for a fact that it matters. And so I think that if you do it that way, it's really easy to raise your prices, because you have all the people that have supported your art up until now. That's your core. And those people are all going to be really excited to hear it. And I promise you that. And then once you hear that, you're going to be like, yes, great. Can't wait to raise them again, because this works so well. It's really good. It's really good.
I was watching one of your things where, to be honest with you, a lot of times for me, the people that are watching this right now, I'm amazed by them because my attention span's not that long. But I was watching one time where you were, I think you were selling one of your cards had just come online, and you were telling people not to order 2 or something like that. Do you remember? That's probably something you do a lot or whatever. But
yeah, my Mark McGuire auto.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say the one that went for like whatever the purple scratch and sniff one's $500 when people buy it or whatever. I just what you just said that just gave me a whole new perspective of that. Not only did that person get something of value, that every person before them that bought stuff from you, everything they bought just got better, you know. And I never thought of that till you just said that. That's super cool.
Yeah,
that is super cool.
It's really fun. It's really cool when you can tell your collectors, my art sells for more money now, and then they feel awesome about it.
That's super.
And then the new people also, like when people are getting into like, you know, if they're following you, like here on the stream, right? Some of these people have heard about you before. Some of them people maybe just found you through the stream. And some of these people might find you tomorrow or the next day because they're watching the replay of it. Well, those people are going to start following your journey, and they might see your prices start to rise. And they might be like, oh, crap, his prices are on the up. I got to get in now because I believe in this guy like long term. Like he started here. He started at 75. Then he went to 100. Soon it's going to be 150. He's doing the frames, like he's doing the big prints. He's doing the numbered prints. Like all those things matter. And people really love to be like, you know, on the bandwagon. And that might be like I don't mean it in a negative way. Like, you know, you want to attach yourself to like something that's going in the right direction. And so
I hear exactly what you're saying. It's like you're rewarding people for supporting you and being cool to you.
Of course. And you should. You absolutely should.
That is really cool. I had never even thought of that until you said that. That is a super cool thing about it.
Yeah.
That thought had literally until just of all this conversation, that's the first thing I did. I'd never thought of that. So like every person that's ever bought something from you, even before Project 2020 or any of that kind of stuff, every other thing you've done since then, every time you did Antoine Jamieson or whatever, you know, or whoever, you know, the stuff goes up. Every person before that, you've made it better for them too. That's really cool.
Yep.
So the $1,500 card, it makes all the other ones better too. That's really cool.
Totally. And then another thing that you can do if like, and it's fun to do this, like especially like you get somebody that buys art for the first time from you, and maybe like let's just hypothetical situation. Your prints are $75 now. We have this talk. You're like, all right, screw it. I'm making a Shopify site and I'm putting $100 on. Or 150, and then I'm making 175 with the frame, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whoever comes in and buys a piece from you, and you're like, you might have like a moment of like, oh crap, this is a lot of money compared to what the last person bought, and like they were the first one. Like it just you might feel guilty about that. Give them some extra stuff.
Okay.
Like it doesn't have to be an extra. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Give them a little something extra in the package, and it could be simple. You know, could be like, I actually think that your art would make really cool postcards.
Yeah.
Your print could do it. So you print postcard size of your art, and then on the back, you know, you print the little square for the stamp and the dividing line and the lines for the address. Like I think that your art would be dope on a postcard, and you just give someone like they get the full size print and they get a matching postcard to send to someone else that it'd be like, hey, I'd love if you could share this art with your friends and family. Send them this postcard, and put a stamp on it for them. You know, like you know, little stuff like that. Like I think goes a long way. And I mean, I'm guessing you probably know this, but like it's a lot easier to sell a second print or a second piece of art to one person than find another person to buy art for the first time.
Yeah.
And so as much as you can do to like retain your existing customers and make them come back and want more, make them tell a friend, that's like, it's gold. Absolute gold.
And how much do you kind of different off another tangent there, but it can be difficult talking to me sometimes. But so that same thing, then how much do you, like at Christmas time, I mean, of the stadiums, I could sell a gazillion of those. So like last year, I wasn't even really doing it and was just as fast as I could go to the post office with selling prints of the stadiums and stuff.
You know what that means? You got to raise the prices.
Underline.
You're going to the post office as fast as you possibly can. You can't keep up. You didn't really try. You got to raise your prices.
That's what I just thought. Yep, that's exactly what I got to think of. But how much do you keep when you say you got to make people go for that second buy from them? How much do you take from people that, like I'm sure, do you sell a lot of print? You've always just sold the original of what you do. You're like a one of one kind of thing, right? A lot. So,
Mostly, yeah. I've done some prints. I mean, one of my 60,000 websites, blakejamieson.shop, is a print site.
Okay.
I don't really drive a lot of traffic to it. I'm spinning it down, and we'll be moving everything to blake.art, which my dad's helping me build, which is going to be primarily originals, but I will probably put some prints on there.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry.
No, that's what I want. Anything you say, I want to hear.
Oh, no.
What do you do with people that, like, because at Christmas time when I told you I was selling the prints, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. As I was actually waiting for boxes to come in from the what's that U-Lead or whatever that they have the things to send more out. That's how fast the stuff was going. And but there were people that you send stuff to that like say that the print has a tiny ding on the. I mean, like you were talking about with the scratch cases from Topps. I mean, I've been buying Topps cards since I was a child, and I have not seen that much damage. I'm not saying there's not that much damage out there, but sometimes I wonder, do you build that into the price as well, that there's going to be X percent of these where no matter what I do to be careful, somebody's going to say it was messed up as well?
I think you absolutely take that into account. I think that if you're selling prints for $75 now, you double your price to $150.
Mm-hmm.
1 out of every 10 person might say, "Hey, there's a smudge on this," and you say, "Great, you know, what should we do about it? Do you want me to send? Like, I'm happy to send you another one. You want another one?" And honestly, just being that nice and just being like, "Let's take care of it." Some people are gonna be like, "It's cool, it's cool, it's cool." Like, "Hey, do you have an idea? You know, do you have any recommendations for how to get this off? Should I use paint thinner? Should I use an eraser?" People will do that, and that's cool. But like, I would go above and beyond. And I know that there are some people. I mean, I've gotten some people have sent in cases that they said were scratched. That I'm like, looks where I don't know if I take a brand new One Touch out of the sleeve and I put it in, I can't tell the difference. But you know, absolutely, customer. How can I help it? How can I make you better? How can I make it better for you? And like, and that's like, it doesn't even have to be for customers too. Like things that if you see opportunities with art buyers that want that are having problems with other things, and I'll give you an example. F. Dot. Love Eric. I think I love his work. I love everything about his stuff.
Me too.
I saw on Twitter someone posting a picture of an F. Dot card that they got, had a little kind of a fuzzy thing, like a little piece of fuzz or lint inside the case. And so the guy had messaged F. Dot on Twitter, just public tweet saying, "Hey, F. Dot, got this from Topps. Love this card. There's this tiny piece of lint. Any chance that you can exchange it for me?" And F. Dot said, "Oh, sorry, you're going to have to take it up with Topps. You know, I don't, that's, you know, they do the quality control. They got it from Topps," which is absolutely true. And someone else chimed in and said, "Oh, Blake will replace anything if you don't like whatever. Like, you know, I've replaced cards for being off center, for having a dinged corner, for having a scratch case. I don't care. I'll replace any card that somebody wants. If they're supporting me, send it in. I'll send you a pristine one, and I'll autograph it for free if you want, and I'll pay for shipping, you know, or whatever." Which is like, it costs me money, but it makes me a lot of like relationships which lead to money in the long run. Anyways, so in that instance, I saw the opportunity. And again, everyone runs their business different. I don't care. I love Eric. However he wants to do is totally great. But I jumped in it because I had 10 of those F. Dot cards, and I said, "Hey, I'm not F. Dot, but like I have a clean one. I'll trade you." And he's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Of course. You ship it to me, and I'll ship one back." And so like, and then like I'm doing, you know, the card art stuff where I'm painting like, you know, on these cards. And so I'm like, "All right, well, who's your favorite baseball player?" And he's like, I'm pretty sure it was Pete Alonso. He's like, "I'm a big Mets fan, Pete Alonso." It's like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to put something extra in the package for you." So I send him back a brand new F. Dot, you know, perfect, pristine condition card. I put in a card art card that I had made, and then a stack of my business cards, which are all kind of almost like tiny trading cards too. and sent him that. And he's like, dude, I can't believe that you did that. Like, you have a fan for life. And like, what did that really cost me? It cost me the time of a tweet. We traded a card. So I got F.Dot's card. I have a card with fuzz in it, which I don't care because I'm going to crack it open and I'm going to go to F.Dot's studio, or F.Dot actually is coming to my studio next week. I'm going to ask him to sign it for me and give him a signed card of mine and see if we can like do a swap. So like that front, it doesn't matter. These cards, I have them sitting all over my studio, and we are going to start selling these soon. But for the short term, like we've just been using these for like customer delight of like exceeding expectations. Totally worked. And now he's got 3 business cards of mine, so he's going to probably give them to 3 friends of his, and he's going to follow my art forever, or for a long time. And it's like that cost me nothing, and that wasn't even someone that had a problem with my order. They had something with Tops, and like those opportunities are freaking everywhere, because it's so rare to find someone that will like go those extra steps, and it's not even that hard. And like if you can even be just like a little bit, if you can find opportunities to be just a little bit like that, you're going to have raving fans that'll buy anything that you put out for whatever price you put it at.
That was what I was getting back to. So I guess I just build that in, then I'm going to have to do that. Though. And like you said, I guess if the prints were going that fast, then that means that's way too cheap to sell, especially at Christmas. Do you raise the price at Christmas time like that, or do you keep the price the same? Or
no, I keep it the same. So I do keep it the same, but again, with as far as reaching out to my collectors, like December is always a busy month for me, especially like the first 2 weeks, because I basically give people, I have like a cutoff, and every year like there's someone that hits me up like 3 days before Christmas and like, I need to have this by Christmas, and I always try and get it to him and overnight it and kill myself staying up all night painting it, but because I want to go that extra mile. But I will hit up my customers in November and just say, this is just a reminder for Christmas. It's always busy. Every year, people try and get in at the last minute, and I've already got a waiting list. Like I've already stacked up. So like, get your orders in right now if you want it delivered by Christmas. And I'll usually get like a little bump of orders then, and it'll be good, and I'll keep me through December. And then I'll get 1 or 2 at the very, very end, like right before Christmas, being like, please, 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 I forgot. And I was like, fine, okay, I'll do it for you. But yeah, so I don't change my prices for situations or for people. And I think that like having my prices public online for like original commissions is like a rare thing, which is sad, but is what it is. I try to be like transparent about all that.
All right.
Yeah.
So is it higher and keep it the same basically is what you do, then that creates like a
I also think like, I mean, you could do really well with commissions. I think if you made that part of your kind of more integrated into your plan of pushing for that, because I think people love to pick, people love it. And you have enough work now that like they can see everything and they're going to get the ideas to be like, oh yes, the Jordan Fleer is sick, but like my favorite was, this other Jordan card or whatever. And then
do you let people dictate the style? Although you keep one style, which I guess I can see the advantage of that right there then.
Yeah, so they kind of know they're buying from me because they know what to expect.
Yeah.
Now, so there are different levels of like hands-onness that a customer might have. I try to be as flexible as I can with them. I say, hey, we can do this a couple different ways. You could just, if you want, you tell me what player you want. I'll go find the picture. I'll do everything. I'll pick the colors. You tell me the size and the subject, and I'll go make it happen. On the other end of the spectrum is you pick the subject, you pick the exact photo of the subject we're going to use, you pick the colors we're going to use, all the way through. And that's okay. I prefer when people like let me just kind of do my thing, because at this point they trust me and they've seen enough of my work that they know what to expect. And I typically will deliver something that they do expect. Like a good example actually is, I don't know if you saw, I guess it was last night, I was doing the Hank Aaron collage, right, for the background of that painting. So the guy Luke commissioned, and he was one of the early commissions from Project 2020. I just started actually commissioned production again after a while. And so he ordered this in like May. I guess it was May. So he's been really patient. He knew what to expect. He was pretty flexible. He did give me a reference photo, and I said, oh, you got, do you have any colors you want for the background? He said, totally trust you, do your thing. when I was first doing the stencil last week, I came up with the idea of getting these, the vintage newspapers with all the Hank Aaron, different headlines. And I looked them up on eBay, and I actually went ahead and just made the executive decision to order them. But then I reached out to him because that was giving him something different than what he expected based on the work that he had seen of mine. And so I said, hey, look, I have a cool idea. I would love to be able to do a mixed media background with these 1974 papers with Hank Aaron breaking Babe Ruth's record. Is that okay with you? Do you trust me? And he said, of course. But somebody else, could have just said, I had something in mind. I was expecting what you usually do. Let's stick with that. Which also would have been totally fine. I would have had no ill will. I literally would have taken those newspapers and I would have made a different Hank Aaron for myself, which would have been awesome.
Yeah. No. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else to bug you about. I'm trying to think here.
Got a couple questions.
Yeah, Matt, you got questions?
Oh, I'd love to hear.
Hey, you wanna tap in for a second? I really gotta pee.
Sure.
I'll be right back. So Matt's we're gonna do a hot sweet swap.
Okay.
He's got some fan questions that he's gonna. This is Matt, by the way.
Hey, what's up, Scott?
Hey, what's up, bro?
How's it going?
Great.
Hey, everybody. All right. So sorry that I haven't asked these questions. I've just been enjoying you and
That's
Blake
all right.
from the couch in the corner.
I can babble a lot, and he's giving me a lot of information. So that's kind of a bad combination.
No, I think it's a great combination. Everybody seems to be enjoying
Cool.
the conversation a lot. So here's a question from James Eugenia. Who is the most famous person you have painted or painted for?
Painted for nobody. I would just say everybody's. But I mean, the most famous I've done would be any of them, Babe Ruth, any of them. My personal favorite I've done is Cal Ripken. For some reason, I don't really share much of the Cal Ripkens online. For some reason, I guess I need to do more.
Yeah, I went to the University of Maryland. My Maryland friends would be very interested in your Cal Ripkens. So.
I lived in Frederick and Brunswick for a long time.
Oh,
nice. Years. Yeah.
Nice. I've got a friend from Frederick. I always wanted to go to a Frederick Keys game.
Absolutely. That's a cool stadium for a minor league team.
Yeah. I did go to an Aberdeen Ironbirds game. That was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cal
Have
Ripken.
you been to the field where the little kids play where it looks like they made replicas for everything for the Ripken League? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, they have like a little replica of Camden Yards and a little replica of that the kids play on the field. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're out there where Cal Ripken's from, Havre de Grace, or however you say it right there. So,
Yeah. All right. So here is a question from Krista M. Shout out to Krista. Are the prints listed in the digital catalog available, even if they are not at Etsy right now?
Yes, I have every print. The only caveat I have on anything with selling is, like I said, I'm just getting into that more like serious. The only thing I don't want to sell is stuff of the Negro Leagues guys, and that's because I want to use those to raise money and draw attention to those players. That was the whole purpose of making those in the first place. And I don't ever want you'll never see me. I'm not trying to make any money off of any of those guys. They've been screwed enough in life. I'm not going to be the next person that makes money off Buck Leonard or something like that. It's just not happening. Even if I became Blake Jamieson and everybody knew who I was, I would still donate any money I make from anything like that on those. So anything but the Negro Leagues guys, yes, I would sell.
Okay. Awesome.
And if you really want the Negro Leagues ones, I'll sell it to you, but it's going to be more, and I want you to donate it to the Negro Leagues Museum.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just require people to, make exactly. Yeah. Make a donation of X amount to the Negro League Museum, and then you can get it. Awesome. So Krista, I hope that answers your question. It definitely did. So I hope it answered it, and it did.
And it did. I'm telling you, it answered it. So,
last question. This is from Chris the Rev. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Ellen. Shout out to Luke. Scott, who are your favorite athletes?
Cal Ripken, Satchel Paige. Probably my two favorite all time are Cal Ripken and Satchel Paige. When I was talking earlier about that, I was just wasn't a nice place at my house. I did have a friend when I was a little kid whose dad was really into the history of the Negro Leagues. And he and I would start to learn about Satchel Paige and some of those guys then. And then when I was a little kid, I just read everything. I thought that would be somebody I would like to meet. Like if there was some alternate world where you could meet 5 people that ever existed on Earth, he would without a doubt be there. I already met Cal Ripken and talked to him for a while, so I guess it'd be Satchel Paige be the first one. So.
Oh, that's really cool.
Ripken was super cool when I met him. Yeah, I said I was talking to my ex-wife bought me this thing after in Frederick. Cal Ripken was speaking at the Weinberg, and she bought me this thing where after it you get to go talk to Ripken. So this extra thing. So I was talking to him afterwards, and he's like, "Do you have anything you want to ask me about anything or anything like that?" And I asked him about the '89 Flair F-Face Ripken card.
Yeah.
And he was like, all the things in the world you want to ask me about, you're going to ask me about my brother's baseball card. But that story from him is a super cool story. You know, he told me exactly how it happened, the whole thing and everything. But the best part of that is when he told me their mother's reaction to when that card first came out, and the sarcastic kind of look on his face, like she was like, "That's real nice. That's just real nice." And it's just the way he told the story. I'm sure he's been asked a million times, but it was super cool the way he told it. And there's all these things you read online about it was on purpose and all that, straight from Cal Ripken's mouth. That was an accident. He said that the major league players get a shipment of bats in, and that in the shipment of bats, if there's 10 bats, 7 or whatever might be good, and then 2 or whatever numbers might be ones used in batting practice or whatever, and then you might get one in the batch that's just garbage, and you'll mark it and you put a name or whatever on it. So Billy Ripken put that on his, and so they went out and they were going out for batting practice, and Billy Ripken grabs the thing out of the rack, and right there is the Flair. The photographer that would then be selling the Flair says pose, and Ripken puts it up, not even thinking about what's in his hand, and then just doesn't give it another thought. And it was literally all an accident. There was nothing on purpose about it. So, but it was a good story because when he talked about his mom, said she was real impressed with him. It's just neat hearing these guys have the same reactions that you or I would have if something would happen, that they deal with the same things in real life, like their parents going, "Oh, that's real nice. That's real nice."
That's amazing. I'm going to let Blake tap back in. Scott, it's been great to listen to, and your work is amazing. So everyone should check out Scott, follow him on Twitter, check out his site, buy some stuff from it.
Thank you very much.
All right, back.
All right.
All right. What else you got?
I don't know. I was just sitting here thinking. When I do have one question. When you when you do this with Topps, did originally, before the whole process started, did you reach out to Topps or did Topps reach out to you? Is there like, because my friend was telling me that one of those guys we were talking offline about, that he was saying something about that to reach a certain level, you have to have a publicist and stuff like that. And that sometimes deals like that are made by somebody talks to somebody who handles that for them, and then they put the two together. That stuff's not random. So I was wondering with you how that happened.
Well, I did not. I was a one-man show. Publicist. It helped that I had been focused on sports portraits exclusively as my brand for the last 3 years. But Topps reached out to me. They filled out a contact form on my website, just saying like, idea, Jeff from Topps. I have an idea I want to talk to you about. We set up a phone call. Turns out he told me later he had seen my art that I had done for the Premier Lacrosse League. I played lacrosse in college. I'm a big lacrosse fan. And so Paul and Michael Rabel started Premier Lacrosse League a couple years ago, and I just thought it was really cool that players were starting their own league, because professional lacrosse is there's a lot of opportunity that isn't being capitalized on the professional level. So the players are trying to start their own league, and I thought that was dope. So I made them a couple paintings for free. They loved it. They hung it up in their office, and like they were really generous, and like they've always been promoting it when people see it and like it. So he saw me through that and found my art and did a little bit of research on my website, I guess, and liked what he saw. A publicist or an agent or a manager, those people can bring opportunities. I think that it's best to go make opportunities for yourself, because that's what's going to attract the best quality agents and managers. Like, they want to see people that are already making things happen on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think that some of the Topps artists were probably brought in because of maybe like a manager or an agent or a publicist situation. But I would guess that I think that most of them Topps just picked because they thought they'd be cool. And I think the Topps did such a good job picking such a big variety. You know, we have Ben Baller's like most known for his jewelry that he designed, right? And then we have Don C, who's like heavy in fashion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just I think they just did a really good job picking very, very different styles. And at first, like, because I know a lot of really good artists that do sports stuff, and some of them specifically in like the baseball world. And at first, I was like, man, I don't understand why like this person wasn't picked or this person wasn't picked for it. But then I realized that like those people's fans are already baseball card collectors, and Topps was doing this. I have to imagine in part to bring in a new audience. And so getting someone from the fashion industry, getting someone from jewelry, getting somebody from like advertising or graphic design or anything like that is like bringing on new audiences, which I think was part of Topps's motives. And so like in that sense, like I actually really lucked out that like of the people that they decided to pick that were focused on athletes, I'm really lucky that like this was already, sorry, my thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Whoever did that's definitely an art history person, because the whole, like we were talking at the very beginning, that whole pop art movement, that's what it was, is they took advertising and colors, and it wasn't necessarily that you were the most talented portrait artist or whatever. That's what pop art was, is that you took symbols and colors and put it. And so whoever made this, the Project 2020, they definitely had that as an influence, because really all it's done is substitute movie stars and whatever, and it's moved in baseball cards, and it's classic baseball cards. It's not just random things. Mm-hmm. So obviously somebody had a background in that shows that. I was just curious how they did that. That's pretty cool.
No, I think it's great. And I mean, like we mentioned earlier, is like one of the coolest things is how much attention it's brought to the art, sports art world, which is really cool to see kind of the ripple effect of the project. And it's like I only thought of the small ripples of like, okay, great, some royalties and potentially new customers. But then it's like artists that are now my friends that I'm working with, artists that are inspired by the project and are now making money off of it. Like, just all these different crazy things that just keep going out. And I'm sure that like, it's also crazy. We're only halfway done with the whole project. Like that's wild. So we still have a lot of opportunities for more ripples. And yeah, I see people mentioning Lauren Taylor. Exactly. So that's a perfect example. Lauren Taylor is a very talented artist. Mm-hmm. She has a license with the MLB and the MLBPA and the Hall of Fame, Cooperstown. And she would have crushed it with the project. But her fans are all baseball fans that are also baseball card collectors, most likely. And I would think that it wasn't it was probably intentional of them picking people that were trying to expand to audiences outside of baseball cards, which I think was, from a business standpoint, smart. Even though I do think like Lauren would have crushed it, you would have crushed it. There's so many people that would have done really well in the project.
But it's cool that, it's really cool is that, like, say if you go back like 2 years ago or something like that, I was on Twitter a while ago, then I just left it and quit. You would not believe how like this style of stuff, even 3 years ago, I mean, I would get, like I was telling you earlier about Jason, he's my friend, the one said Jason Schwartz and Bob Kendrick from the Negro League Museum. They were really supportive. Like they would always say this was good or whatever. Besides like those two people, I would get like horrific DMs from people like, this is shit, this is not real, this is a bad art of a fake baseball card. The same stuff people now think is great and want, like 3 years ago, would just hammer me about, would say that I was pandering to the black community, because I always did. A lot of cards of Negro League guys would say that the cards I did of other stuff were, like I said, bad art on a fake card, that nobody would ever want this. Why do you keep making this crap? This is not real art. I mean, I just pounded and pounded and pounded to the point I'm like, not that I would quit, because I just don't feel like listening to it anymore. And then now, all of a sudden, it's like the greatest thing ever, that if you make a Mark McGuire that has, like today I put that one up because I was going to be on here with you, where it has the McDonald's sign with his home. People like sending me messages. That is the coolest thing. If I would have put that up 3 years ago, it would have been 45 messages about how stupid that is, and looks like a fifth grader made it and stuff. I mean, so it's amazing how much, like you said, not just bringing people into the baseball, the different people into the baseball card collecting community. I think it's done the opposite of that too, is kind of broaden the minds of the people in the baseball card community that, it doesn't always have to look a certain way. And I think that's been part of why there's the explosion of like custom cards and that kind of stuff, is because now all these people see that it's okay. Like, well, hey, I do this too, or like Ken Carl, you had him. He's like, well, I make these. And everybody goes, man, those are awesome. And then the next person says, well, I make this. Well, those are fantastic, And so I think that it's allowed people to get into the pool that were just like, oh, I'm not getting into that because I saw how they treated other people. It's kind of like it's almost validated a whole style of art. And I don't know if you would call it pop art or sports art or whatever it is, but whatever the new name for this is, I think it's really helped it explode, that it's okay to do.
Yeah.
So
I absolutely agree. I think that, it's really cool. And I think that as you and everyone else knows, I love chatting with other artists and lifting everyone up. I think that rising tide lifts all boats. I want to see everyone win, and as much as I can help other artists. And when I see I see, there's some negativity on social media and Twitter and stuff. And, there's guys that come out and just say, oh, that sucks. And whatever, that's fine. There's also a lot of artists that I've seen that are lifting each other up and supporting each other, retweeting and promoting each other's stuff, or doing collaborations and crossover giveaways. And I love to see all that stuff. So I think that it's an exciting time to be doing what we're doing. And it'll be even more exciting to see where, the rest of the project and beyond takes the hobby and the art crossover.
What are you going to do as it expands? Are you going to stay within your how you do stuff, or are you going to just make something crazy one day that people say, I can't believe you made that?
I want my set to look good as a whole set.
Yep.
So I don't think that I will do anything too crazy, but like I mentioned earlier, I also feel like I'm in a competition with myself where I want to make every card better than the last, to the best of my ability. So yeah, I think that my cards will get maybe a little bit more experimental, but nothing totally off the wall wild where people are I'm probably not going to shock anyone with cards within the project.
Yeah.
I would like to really continue my art practice and the playground, I call it. So it's fun because I have my commission pipeline, which is before this project, that was what paid the bills. Now Topps pays the bills. Commission is supplemental income, which is awesome. And I'm reinvesting that back into my business. But usually whenever I have the more work I have that people are telling me what to do, paint this person, make it this color, do it this size, it's due by this date. That's when I go to my playground and I try just weird stuff. Yeah. And those are all the hundreds of mistakes to make something right that you mentioned earlier. And I feel like I've made some of my favorite art that I ever have made during the time of the playground. And so I will be spending more time in the playground through the second half of this project. And the fact that I now have a platform and a sounding board to show people is something that I won't take for granted.
So do you have to be careful with like that, for example, today, where I made the thing with the McDonald's sign on it, because of what your work with Topps and the different stuff, you have to be really careful about what you would make and put out, because tomorrow McDonald's might say that we're not part of this project or whatever else. Do you have to be real careful about what's on your paintings when you sell them or put them out, even if it's not for the Topps 2020 stuff?
Yeah, so kind of. For the one-of-one stuff, if I'm just doing one painting, I could put anything on it. I could draw the McDonald's logo. Warhol did that, right? He did that all the time. Drawing the Chanel perfume. If I'm doing one-of-ones, and that's also helps in the sports world of and also a part of the reason why I haven't done a ton of prints is because I was concerned about, the NFL or NBA or the leagues or teams or whoever coming after me. The Dodgers aren't going to come after me because of a painting I did for Cody Bellinger, right? Like one or whatever, whoever. But if I start mass producing, then that could be a bigger issue. And now, because of the attention that Topps has brought to me as an artist, really, really great. But I do have to be extra conscious of making sure that I'm crossing my T's and dotting my I's and taking care of everything. So like if I do something outside of Project 2020 that is sports related, it's going to be a 1-of-1. It's not going to be a print. Unless I can get the proper licensing for it. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. So like
101, you're cool. Because I got I'm nobody, and I did a thing of Lamar Jackson, and it was really, really cool. And I got a thing from his attorney telling me that I had to, it had the properties, he manages the properties for Lamar Jackson, and this whole form thing about cease and desist or be subject to all that. You've seen that stuff before, is it? So I was like, wow, so I was thinking maybe that I was wondering what happened with you and stuff like that, So as long as I do 1-of-1, then I don't have to worry about that. Because like I was saying with the printers now, I can do it on canvas and I could make, I'm not trying to say I would flaunt the license or anything because I don't want to ruin my future with other things, but I could make everything 1-of-1 if I really wanted to, I could make Lamar Jackson and then I could draw something on each one that's different, is that all it has to be is 1-of-1 and you're not going to?
Yes, but if you were doing a print first, you would have to change enough of it that they would look like distinct things. You couldn't just print out a print and then put a yellow dot on the corner of one and then a blue dot on the corner, and obviously that's an extreme case. I'm not saying you do that.
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney by any stretch of the word. So I don't know. But I think if I were doing that, I would want to be modifying and embellishing the prints pretty heavily.
Do you think that they say things kept progressing for me in the future? Do you think that they would come back and look at that later? Like say 5 years from now, if I did something that somebody absolutely loved and it got us attention and the NFL were to make something, would they go back and say, well, this is the guy that basically just when we say Lamar Jackson, if something happened like that, and
right,
is this the guy that just decided he was going to do 10 different versions of his print to get around it? Do you think they keep that in mind? Is that something you would keep in mind ever in your mind? For you, level, me,
I don't know. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on copyright infringement.
Well, I think more just than being pissed off is what I'm saying. That at what point, you're already at a certain level. If you were talking to you 3 years ago, would you be keeping that in mind, or would you say, screw it, I'm going to do 10 different prints of this thing?
Well, I was still doing mostly originals. I wasn't doing a lot of prints back then, and I was conscious. When I would do prints, it was something for a little while I got into, and I still do love photography, but I got a really nice camera and I set up kind of a photo studio, and I was either finding friends or sometimes paying models basically to that I could photograph, and they would sign a release, and then I would make paintings based on that. And that was because I was aware of copyright stuff. And also my dad, who I think is still on the stream, he's also an amazing photographer. And in 1969, he got to photograph some serious legends, James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Angela Davis. And so he has these photos that he took and he, owns. So I was also working off of his photos because I just was conscious of, and it's funny now, looking back, it was really smart. And it was really cool working, both collaborating with your dad is not nothing,
Yeah.
I'm sure just like you, if you do an art piece with Beckett, it's so special. So that's that was a really cool feeling. And it was good from a business standpoint, but I wasn't anywhere near the level of notoriety or audience or whatever you want to call it of nobody would care if I had painted and also like the thing is too is like they were one of ones. I wasn't even doing prints of them. Like I was literally just painting one picture. Like I didn't know, and I was trying to be overly cautious. And I would honestly recommend the same because it's totally fine until it's not, and then it's totally effed. And
that's what I'm thinking. And I honestly don't want to. I'm not trying to step on there. I mean, he's earned the right to defend his name. I have no issue with that. I guess the concern I was asking is that at what point is it just you're concerned about somebody being frivolous and giving you garbage for no reason, and at what point is it something you think, this is legitimate, probably something I shouldn't tread into? Is because to be honest, there's been two where we're not on here. There's been a couple of them where people have sent me stuff, and it's like they get bitter, and all it is it's not even, some of the stuff I do is totally original. That wasn't anybody's photo. That wasn't anything, and it has something that looks like the White Sox, and all of a sudden it's somebody's getting really bitter about it, and
yeah.
I guess that's something that an attorney would answer or something. Then, huh? You don't really.
Yeah, I mean,
the part of you just steers away from that so that you don't even have that stink on you as you keep going forward.
Yeah, and something else that was a good move that I made in my art career is a couple years ago I found, well, really he found me, but an attorney and I found each other. Who he happened to be a really big art fan and loved my style and loved my art. And so we set up an arrangement where for a long time he would trade me his legal services for art. And that was a really useful contact and someone to lean on because I don't know. And still, I mean, shoot, Ryan. And now it's great because like now my art is worth more money. And I actually have the money to pay him because he also has several pieces of mine. And like, I don't know, someone's not going to fill their entire house. So like, it's great to be in a position to be like, Brian, thank you so much for all the work that you've done with me. Great news. I can pay you. And also I have some more questions because my business is changing. So like, if you can finding anyone like that could be helpful. And again, like I'm always here to help as much as I can. The last thing I want to do is like tell you something that is wrong because I don't know the law. I'm not an attorney, but I will tell you like the things that he's told me and, give you that advice. But if you can find anyone like that, if you have any lawyer friends, like people that do like copyright law or contract law, those would be super valuable to have.
I just want to throw this out there, Scott.
Okay.
I know this about Lamar Jackson. He's like very, very careful, and him and his team check like eBay and art sites all the time for like Lamar Jackson stuff. So like one athlete you should not be super duper careful about is Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Everyone else you're probably fine.
Yeah.
But I do know that Lamar Jackson
Michael Jordan, I think, is also Michael Jordan's on top of it.
MJ, LeBron, I mean, I'm sure all the GOATs, but like Lamar Jackson is very on top of that stuff. So I would be very careful.
So then it wasn't really me specifically. That was just pretty much anything.
That was just a bad
boilerplate stuff, man.
That's cool. Because I don't want to be crappy to him either, but I also, and like I said, I understand that hopefully I'm at like the beginning stage of what something that'll be cooler later, and I don't want to be the guy that was screwing with him before, because I'm sure they'll remember that, like, no, you can go, like if he wanted to commit, one day Lamar Jackson wanted a commission of something and he wanted like something I did, I'm sure that would be in his head that this was the guy that was that before. So I don't
think so. I don't think it's in his head, man. I think it's in his attorney's head.
Team? Okay.
It was somebody on it. It's somebody of somebody totally removed. I mean, dude, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but Lamar Jackson saw it because he's busy prepping to do Lamar Jackson things.
Exactly.
And that's probably, probably not browsing Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's good news. That's good news because when it does come time that Lamar wants a painting and he's researching artists and stuff and he comes across your work, he's going to have no fucking clue that might have happened years ago or whatever. Like I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't worry about that.
Yeah. I do think like the one thing that you should be aware of as I'm excited to tell you, like, oh, make these prints, make a website, like raise your prices. Like the licensing stuff is something to be concerned of. So maybe like, I mean, you could do one of ones. You could design something and print one of them and sell them for a lot more money. Or you could print them on canvas and you could hand embellish them. I would still do a very limited run like that. And you could use that to kind of funnel people in for more of your original stuff. That's totally original.
Yeah.
Because I think like your style and your art that I've seen is super dope. And like, I don't care. It's like the fact that there's a Kobe, super dope. But if the Kobe was something else, you know, it would be super, like, I would still think it's really cool.
Cool.
You know, I love like, especially like the map in the background. I think of that one. That one's rad.
Yeah. What about the one, the Dr. J one's pretty cool too, with the Constitution and everything behind him, because it's from Philadelphia. That was pretty cool. Yeah. I had another one of the another artist tell me that he goes, he wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of people kind of stealing that idea with the map in the background of stuff. He said that's a pretty cool idea.
It's a great idea. It's really, really cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions.
Nice, man. Well, you killed it. I think this was great. And we're coming up. We might have even done longer than me and Lauren Taylor, because Lauren and I talked for, I think, close to 3 hours as well. So I think it was awesome, man. And I really do mean it. Anytime, you know, if you have any questions, you want help building the site, you want help setting up MailChimp, lean on me, man. Here to help.
Well, thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So if people want to kind of follow you and support you, what is your preferred method? Like Twitter, you want them to go to the website?
Yeah, go to Twitter and just if you contact me, I'll respond back to you, you know, or if you like something. And I try to post on Twitter 2 or 3 things, or at least one a day, sometimes 2 or 3. When I was sick last month, I was putting a lot of stuff on there, but people were wondering why I wasn't responding. A lot of that was stuff I've done before, you know, because I didn't feel like talking to people on Twitter. I was trying to do a minimum amount of it, because if you get out of line, then you're gone, you know. So I knew I still needed to put stuff on there. But, yeah, somebody just contact me on Twitter, and then I make like a flip book, a PDF, or a flip book, that like a HTML5 flip book. You can look. I kind of rotate the art if you go to that popartredux.com. Mm-hmm. And that keeps stuff there where about every month I'll rotate that.
Nice. I did spell that right?
Perfect.
Like it.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch. I'm sure.
It wasn't much talking. It was me asking you a million questions.
It's all good, man. I appreciate it. I had a great time.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to stay awesome.
All right. Bye.
See you.